Hello. Oh, hello. How are you? Can you guys hear me? Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi.
Diane, I'm going to do a private chat right now with you.
Yeah, I saw your email. And
It's way too advanced for me.
well, that's okay. But you know what? Actually, you haven't checked out to see if Illustrator is way too advanced for you.
Say that again, Diane.
You haven't checked to see if it's way too advanced for you yet. Just
Mhm.
that my emails are, the situation. Hi, everyone, by the way. Sorry about last Friday. It was a disaster.
You look
And
good.
sending an email with lots of videos for you watch is absolutely the opposite of what this class is supposed to be, but it was the only solution. So yeah, if you found that a lot of that was just too much to listen, to watch, to view, I totally get that. But the point I'm making is you haven't opened Illustrator yet to see if this is something you're interested in doing now. So give it a try. And if you don't, I understand that as well. Okay.
Okay.
Completely comfortable to whatever you want to do.
Okay.
So, hi everyone, welcome. So some of you guys I know from other classes, and Molly is one of them, which is why we're talking.
I'm
And
one
other
timers for you.
others of you guys are completely new to me, like I've never met you before. So welcome. I'm expecting a few more people, but to say the truth, this class was full and I have lost some people who've been like, oh, because of what happened last week. So I'm really sad about that, but there's just nothing I can do. So at this point, there's nothing I can do other than be sorry. But the method of teaching is hands-on, and if it looks weird to say that Zoom is hands-on, it really is, and that I'll be showing you what to do in the same moment you're doing it. When you're in trouble, you share your screen, I give you a hand, we continue going. So it really is as if I was right next to you in the classroom watching from behind your back and stuff like that. So don't get discouraged, but those of you who are here is because you're here. It's the ones who didn't come back after not wanting to watch videos that I'm going to have to reach out again to. But anyway, instead of continuing with the apologies, I just want to start with a, hey, hi, I am Diana Musacchio. I will be your teacher. And I am noticing over here that some of you guys already have taken classes with me and know. And so you're starting to write in the chat. So those of you who have never taken classes with me before, notice that in the chat, everyone's kind of going, hi, and you can say your name or not, it doesn't matter, because I actually see, even if you just say hi, that it is from whoever is sending it. But if you have something you want to say to me at the beginning of a class about, maybe needing to leave early or having to leave or stuff like that, that's a good place to also write it for me to know. I always want to know if you need to arrive late, send me an email before time, or if you can't make it to class, or if you're going to leave early, just so I don't sit there wondering, what did I say to offend you when you suddenly just disappear, right? So let me know. I have to go to the doctor or something like that. And in the chat, you can say that to me. You can also write only to me in the chat. Like you can just write to Diana if you want to talk about certain personal things like that. But all the rest of the things that have to do with the class, please write to everyone so everyone is aware of what the issues are, the questions are, and that's really helpful. So welcome to let me see, Carlos and Christian and Saul. I just met you in the Photoshop class. And I'm seeing two Jones, and I don't know if it's Joni and Joan are two different. Well, one is Joni and one is Joan. I'm sure it's the same person or it's two different people. But welcome to all of you. And I haven't seen you in a while, Carlos. Everyone, can you write your last name? So like, for example, I'm only seeing the word Carlos. I happen to know who you are, but when later I have to go and record and register your attendance, it might not match with what's on the roster. So please go ahead and hover over your name, hover over the three dots that appear, and then add your last name, okay? So I'm not sure, Joan, which Joan that is, or Joanne. There's one that says Joni Reddits, but there's another one that says Joan. So if you can change your last name on that one too, because at this point, I'm not sure if it's the same person or a different person. Only because Joni has an I at the end and Joan does not. And I don't have the roster in front of me to compare. So here we go. I'm trying to log out for a second of something so that I can be at the beginning. All right. So welcome back to most of you. I have received information from some of you guys with respect to the survey as to what you're interested in doing and what you're here for and how much you know. And I have also received from some of you some posts in the Padlet. So I'm going to share that right now. So here's the Padlet. And again, for a class that has technically 24 people on the roster, that's not that many posts. Now, in this case, thank you so much for posting. If you didn't post because you didn't know what to post, that's fine. At the end of this class, you are going to be posting what we do today, and then you'll learn how to post that way. Also, some of you guys whom I don't know have posted and told me a little bit about what your interest is in the class, and that's wonderful. I also want you to know that you don't have to have any experience. So you didn't need to have anything available to post. If so, you could just write, like Christian here, who just wrote something. So just as an introduction for the class to know what people are interested in doing. Also, I want you to know that I truly want this class to work for you guys. So if you have something that you're very interested in doing that I can help you with, that is appropriate for the class, because most of the times we'll be working on images that I'm going to give you or that we're going to start from scratch, and we're all going to be working on the same image. But if you guys have a specific need that I can then work with to have it be part of what I'm going to teach anyway, but I'll use your image or your need, then that's wonderful. So for it comes here, I'm saying that Joni wrote, you're wanting to import images and change them and drawing on top of them. So that's something that she posted here. So I'm not sure if this is your image or not, but if you want to learn how to do this in, and you are okay with us using your images, then let me know. And you can either email me or you can write it in here. You can say, yeah, it's fine to use my image, or no, I'd rather not use my image for this, because then if you say that, then the whole class will use that image. Okay, just so you know. If so, I'll ask you to send me the original and we'll use it as a class sample, and then everyone will learn how to do that. Other than that, we can work on other material. Okay, so Sarah here is working on a catalog. Yeah, where.
So this is Joni, and then
yes.
on my iPad, I'm Joan, but I can't find the part at the bottom that I find on my computer where I can make the, when I click on my name, it's not working. It's weird.
To change name. Well, as long as you told me that you are, that is you, I can now rename you. And I'll just put the I there just to
Okay.
remember that it's the same one, because there was another Joan in the class
Uh-huh.
who said she might be she has a client right now, so she might be late or might not make it. But I didn't know if it was you and your second computer, or if it was
Right.
the other Joan. So now I
Yeah.
know.
So how do you go back? So do I have to go back to the, I forget what it's called now,
Yeah,
whatever it's called?
on the iPad, you mean?
No, to tell you that it's fine to use an image. I mean, how would I do that? Go back to.
Oh, you go back in there, and so say you're in here, you can add a comment. Since it's your own, you could also even go up here to edit and then add the comment in what you wrote. And there you can say, oh, it's fine for everyone to use it, it's my image. Or you can just add a comment in here. So here I might want to ask, can we use your image as in class? In class. So here I'm just your image in class. I can see I just wrote it as a comment, and you can either answer there, or you could just at the beginning, just when you write, I'm interested in learning, whatever, you can just edit your own comment by going up here and writing something else.
But do I go back to Padlet and do it? Or
Oh, yeah.
yeah, okay, that was my question. Go back to Padlet and do it. Okay.
Yeah, so let me put the link again in Padlet. So here you go. There's the link again if you want to go in to Padlet again. And anyway, so again, and you don't have to feel that if you post it that we're going to share it at all. It's totally fine. I'm just saying sometimes people find, I mean, we always work on files that I provide and that we create, always. But I also find that sometimes people feel like they wish they could work with their own stuff. So I'm giving you that opportunity without at all making it be something that has to happen. Okay, so don't feel like, oh, I'm not going to post anything because she wants to use it. Not at all. It's completely up to you to put it in there or not. Okay. So anyway, I'm noticing that, let me see. I know most of you guys, but, and since we're kind of on the second day, I'm not going to do everyone introduce themselves. I'm sorry for those of you who don't know everyone, that you won't get the opportunity yet to meet everyone. But that's why I'd really like people to make their introduction here in the Padlet so that everyone can know kind of who's here, who's not. You can say, I have no experience in this. I'm here to learn from zero, or I took your class, many years ago, like I know Carlos, for example. And you can say that. You can post. Carlos does some amazing illustrations. He's a cartoonist, and he wanted to learn originally years ago how to turn that into a digital form because he was doing it hand brace. I don't know if you have the same need, you just want to refresh, or if you have a new need, right? So go ahead and click on that link that's there in the that I just put in the chat, and go to the Padlet, and then just write a little bit of something. And you can do this now, you can do it during the break. You can do it when I'm helping someone do something that you already know, just so that we have a better idea of your needs and why are you in this class, okay? Also, if you've taken the class with me before or not, or if you've taken something else, which I know you've answered, by the way, in the survey. So those of you who answered the surveys, thank you for answering the survey. And then here it gives me a little bit more of an idea. You've already given me a little bit of an idea of what you're up to, okay? And it helps me. For example, someone said design a holiday card. Well, back actually, hold on, because I wasn't supposed to leave. There we go. Sorry, I was in the, so someone said design a holiday card. So the thing is, I want to clarify what we do or don't teach. And by the way, in the survey, it's all anonymous. So I mean, I could go and find out who said what. But for the most part, the idea was to get a general gander of the class. What I'm teaching right now, a set of 3 classes, all of which form part of the Digital Art is Inc. certificate. So they all kind of segue into each other. The Photoshop class, you learn how to manipulate, for the most part, existing images. That said, many people also use it to create images from scratch, right? But let's say that the main use for it usually is using Photoshop to manipulate photographs or scans of your art. So for example, here, this one that Joni posted, the woman in the swimming suit, this could be something you could be working in Photoshop to change or an Illustrator to change, depending on what your final goal is. When she says changing them and drawing on top of them, well, it depends on what you're trying to do, if you would use either Photoshop or Illustrator. The end product matters, right?
Mhm.
So I'm also teaching the Illustrator class right now. And in the morning, I'm teaching the Photoshop class. In the afternoon, the Illustrator class. And then Tuesday, Thursday evening, I'm teaching the digital design techniques class, where I combine the use of Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign to create final pieces. Like, for example, a holiday card, where you might bring in a photograph or an illustration you made, and then lay out some text and things like that. You can also do some of that stuff in Illustrator at a simple level, right? But I'm going to be teaching you how to do something like a whole card in digital design techniques. And here I will be teaching you how to use Illustrator to create new illustrations from scratch, or scanning and bringing things in from scratch and then altering them. My son here posted something she did last class, where we scanned in the outline of a butterfly, and then from that it was a half a butterfly. She created the whole butterfly and then put some colors in the wings and stuff like that. So this would be a combination of something that was drawn on a napkin, cleaned up, scanned in, and then altered in a basic way with a gradient tool, or a logo or something that's completely loose. So that's the kind of stuff we're going to learn in Illustrator. The final printed piece, like a card, we would be learning in the digital design techniques class. But the art that's going to go in the card, you can do here. Does that make sense? How it's all kind of isolated. The ideal is that any of you guys who is in any of these classes at some point to take, if you're not interested in the whole certificate, to still take the digital design techniques class, because that's where it all kind of comes together, is how do you create something beyond the basic art piece itself. But I'm happy to also answer questions here on how to make something that from Illustrator work as part of a piece, but I won't be bringing those kind of projects into this class. So for example, here Saul wrote that he's working on a catalog. So, and it's everything from rod, concrete, masonry. So that is the perfect example of something I'll be working in digital design techniques. I think you also posted something in the Photoshop class of the similar. Are you in my digital design techniques class, Saul? Or not?
No, I'm not, but I'm be interested in signing in with you.
Yeah, because it seems to me that because you posted the business card in Photoshop, right?
Yeah, well, it was something that I did so quick in like about 10, 20 minutes.
Okay, that's great. So here's a catalog that he's working on right now. So this is awesome, right? That you're doing this kind of work. I highly recommend doing this kind of thing, especially a catalog that's going to have many pages. Not only highly recommend, but definitely tell you that if you're going to do a catalog, the place made for this would be in InDesign, where you would bring, and this is a great example, by the way, you guys, of Photoshop could be used to make the photograph better, Illustrator to make the logo, right? And this part, the builders, and and then all of the text, general contractor, stamp, the bullets, all of that, the layout of this whole thing, where you put one photograph here, one there, you make these things, all of that can be done in InDesign. Okay, whereas where you bring all of these things together to create your final piece, especially if it's going to be a multiple page document, and InDesign is made for multiple page documents, right? Another reason it's good to use a program like InDesign or something like that is because, say that this is a catalog is, I don't know, 3 pages or 35 pages or 350 pages, we don't know. What if these colors, when you print them out, don't work, or for some reason you want to change these to blue in another portion and to red in another portion? Well, if you have a document that you're creating this in that allows you to then change this, from pages 10 to 15 are going to be 2 tones of red, from pages 20 to 25 they're going to be 2 tones of blue, from 35 to 85 they're going to be 2 tones of green. Does that make sense? You can do that quickly when you have a program dealt with working on many different pages, and that would be InDesign. versus Illustrator. Illustrator is great for single page documents, but is not as good to work on multiple page documents. Okay.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. So thanks for posting these ideas here. Megan, which I'm not seeing Megan here. So anyway, she's talked about tracing a photograph and wanting to learn the pen tool, but she's not here. I said I did lose some people based on not being confused about having to learn on video. Trying to reach out to them and have them join us again, but I'm not sure, so I'm not going to talk about that unless she's here. All right, so that's the idea. Cool. So Sam just posted something. You want to create graphics to incorporate it into merchandise. So this was illustration made out of a photograph, which, by the way, in Photoshop, I can teach you how to make this out of a photograph. And we can do somewhat this kind of idea also in Illustrator, but this would be something best done in Photoshop and then brought into Illustrator. So, and then she's also mentioning getting handy with the Wacom and pen application to create drawings. So I want to speak to that for a second. What she's talking about is that you don't only need a mouse to work, or a pad. Well, let me be clear. If you're working with only a touchpad or the pad that comes in your laptop, it's probably not the best way to approach any of these programs. You probably want at the minimum a mouse. It's really hard to handle any of these programs with just your finger. And a mouse, you can buy any level mouse and just connect it to your desktop, to your laptop, and work better. But if you're going to be really working with illustrations at a higher level, you might want to do to get an actual graphic pen, which is, for example, this that I'm showing you here just looks like a pen. Let me stop my share so you can see me a little bit better. So here's what looks like a pen, but this is actually a stylus in the sense that this is equivalent to my mouse. So I put this down on pad that looks kind of like this, and I draw like this, and then my mouse moves around, and that's like working my computer with a Wacom graphic tablet. And so for things like illustration and Photoshop and things like that, sometimes it's easier if you're going to draw a line to actually draw a line with a pen than to try to draw that with a mouse, right? Have you ever tried to sign your name with a mouse? It's a disaster, right? Versus if you were to try to sign it. So that's the difference, but you don't have to do that. But anyway, Sam's talking about wanting to get more comfortable with it. If you have one, or if you want to learn about how to get one, this one that I have here is the basic entry model. And I've used these kinds for, 25 years now. Having had the more expensive ones, never found much of a need for it. This one is about, it's less than $100, maybe, depending on, you can buy it for anything from, depending, 75, 79, 80, something like that, 120, like the basic sets. Then there's some others. So if you want to know more about that, ask me and I can help point you to good places. All right, and then Christian. So hi, Christian. You had a picture before. You had a little drawing, and now you just have a name. So I noticed that you dropped it in and out again. So
hi.
Hi.
First time taking a Zoom class, and I was on one computer and then that one failed. So I just jumped over to my laptop, and I'm trying, for some reason the screen won't do the video. So anyway, I'll figure all of that out. But
no, that's fine. Listen, don't worry about that. I was about to say, if you can comfortably show your video, I much prefer to see you, to be talking to real people. But if for any reason it's not comfortable for you because your background or it's noisy or something like that, definitely, if your Zoom connection isn't powerful, then definitely go ahead and leave your video off. I do want to be able to have you on Zoom on the computer that you're working, though, and this is for everyone, because when you get stuck and you need me to help you get unstuck, you need to share your screen. And when you share your screen, I can see what's happening and tell you quickly what to do, not to do, to get out of it. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you do have two available laptop or iPad or desktop or whatever version, that's the best way to connect, because then you can have on one side me showing you what to do, and on the other side you have the application.
That's what I would prefer to do, if
Mhm.
I could. I mean, again, I should talk to you about, so I have a desktop and I have a laptop. And with the desktop, I was trying to just have the video playing, but it kept getting stuck. So maybe I should just talk to you about that after class or something, how to best do it. I'm going to be working on my laptop.
So yeah, we can talk a little bit more during break.
Yeah.
And we can see what the options are, and I can see help you out with that.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, give me a second. I'm writing a message. Okay, so I was just writing a message for a second that I had to send out here. All right, so here's the deal. Most of you guys, Missy Sella was in this morning, so she knows. The rest of you have kind of taken one or another of my Zoom classes. So Christian, you've not taken an internet class before, you said, right? Or a Zoom class before, right?
Correct.
So basically, one thing I want to remind everyone, and then I want to, and actually, Carlos, you haven't taken a Zoom class with me. You've taken in person, so I'm not sure, right, if you know how to do this. But I want everyone to respond to me when I ask group questions. I want everyone to respond to me using the reactions button. So if you go to the bottom of your Zoom video, and there's all these little icons. One is the little smiley face. That's your reactions. Go ahead and click on that icon. And then there's all these different icons, but from the bottom up, the most bottom one is raise your hand. Okay, and it's, people miss it as a button because it's this long bar. Go ahead and everyone click on raise your hand so that you can know where you're at. Cool. So yeah, so when you want to raise your hand, if I'm seeing you, it's great to do this, right? But if you're waiting and I'm talking about something and you have a question that comes up, go ahead and raise your hand this way. And then when I'm done with what I'm doing, I look, and when you raise your hand, you end up in a row at the top for me. And so I know, and I can answer the first one to the left and say, okay, Sam, man, kind of deal with your questions in the order that they came in. And then when I'm done with your question, either you can lower your hand by clicking that again, or I can lower your hand if I already answered it. So again, lower your hands just by clicking on the same button, which you might notice says lower your hand. The other thing I want to do is that all the buttons that are on the top that say smiley face and thumbs up and celebration, those are cool, but they last 3 seconds. So say that I say something funny and you want to laugh, go ahead and give me a little laugh icon, and it's cute. I see that. It helps my self-confidence as a teacher if you laugh at my jokes. But they disappear in 3 seconds. So when I actually ask you questions about the class, like tell me if you've used Illustrator before or not, then I will have you use the yes and the no's. So I'll say yes if you used it, say no if you haven't. And that would be, yes is the green check mark and no is the red X. So everyone, if you've used Illustrator before, give me a yes. If you've not used Illustrator before, give me a no. And so go ahead and do that now. And that those answers will stay. So a thumbs up, Sam, is going to disappear. In 3 seconds, it'll be gone. And you'll notice that. So when I'm trying to divide people into categories for things that I need to help, the thumbs up doesn't help me. The raised hand is fine if you have a question, but if I want to give me a yes or a no, right now I'm only seeing a few yeses. I'm seeing one no, and then a couple people who haven't answered anything. So please make sure to answer so that I don't have to individually say, okay, such and such person, can you please answer? Such and such person, can you please tell me? Because that's what I'll end up doing, right? Now, there's always double computers, like Vera has 2 computers, so it's okay to answer only on one, of course, right? But sometimes I might not notice and say, oh, Vera, and then I'll go, oh yeah, you answered up there, because you'll appear in a different place for me. Does that make sense? But that's fine, I'll get that. But if you haven't answered at all, like Maysan, I might go, hey, Maysan, what's your, and now I happen to know she's been in my class before, so I happen to know she's taken it, but don't assume that I know. Please answer yes or no. That way I can divide you guys into like, I don't, right now I know if you've taken the class before or not, but I don't know if you're Mac or PC people, for example. So that would be an answer that I really would need to know. But what I do need to know right now, and so now I'm actually going to have you guys, so I'm going to clear your answers. And now I do need to know who of you has their own iCloud subscription and has their own applications downloaded onto their computer. If so, give me a yes. And which of you does not have that? Thus, you're going to be using VDI, and I'll teach you how to use how to use VDI to connect to the illustration, to the programs. Then give me a no. So if you are in VDI, give me a red no. All right. So Carlos and Joni and Saul, can you please say yes or no? Lisa, so that I can know who's going to be on VDI. Joni. I don't see an answer. And so, okay, so right now I'm seeing 3 people on VDI and 4 or 5. I believe Lisa has her own applications. I'm not sure. And Joni, I don't know. So are you unable to answer?
Diana, this is Lisa. Yes, I do have my own application.
Yeah, I thought so. So give me a yes. And then Joni, I'm not seeing your answer yet. So please answer whenever you can. That way I know how to support you. Okay, so this is an example. When it stays on, now I can look up and go, okay, are you, because right now the instructions are going to be different for each group, this portion. So by having this available, I'll be able to know what to do next. So first of all, I'm going to go ahead and you guys supposedly got this handled over the week or met me on Sunday where I helped you with this. But just to make sure, if you are a yes, meaning you have your own subscription, have you all downloaded the class files? So if you have your own iCloud subscriptions, I needed you to download the class files. All right. So if so, keep your yeses. If you didn't, then raise your hand so I'll know that I need to support you with that. VDI people don't need to download the class files. VDI people need to connect through VDI and connect into Google Drive. So yes, so Sam?
I'm going to take care of it right now. I'm right on it.
Awesome, perfect. So there you go. So if you don't know how to download the class files, like for example, in this case, Christian, this is the first time you've taken a class. Have you downloaded the class files? Same with Carlos, first time you're on Zoom, have you downloaded the class files? Okay, Christian?
Yes, so they're on my Google Drive. I don't have them in iCloud, but I have a Google Drive and all of those. I can go to the shared files from my desktop.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's fine. So you're able to access the Google Drive from
my desktop
own subscription. Okay. Most people don't know how to do that. And that's why I want to make sure, but if you're clear on that, that's fine.
Yeah.
Otherwise they need to be downloaded to your drive. Okay. Awesome. All right. So for people who are on their own subscription, also make sure that you have Bridge downloaded and installed. Okay. Because we were going to be using Bridge. So I'll let you make sure that you've got that going. And now I'm going to ask the VDI people. So Vera and Patricia and Saul, and I'm still not getting an answer from Joni. Joni, if you're there, are you PC or Mac? I think not PC or Mac. Are you on your own system, which I think you are, but I can't remember. So VDI people, Vera and Patricia, I know how to get there because you've done this before. And Saul, you just did this in Photoshop, right? So I basically, let me know. I'm going to go ahead and sign in quickly myself because it looks like everyone's got this one handled. And I'm just going to head on in and get going. So that's good to know. In Photoshop, I had to sit back and help some people connect still. But one of the better or worse things of having a small class is that it's there's, you know, less people means that we can move faster for the most part, because there's less people who need support, for better or for worse, because I really do like, I really am sad that we've lost people who are going to be new to the class, but oh well. All right. So Ali just joined us. Hi, Ali. Can you hear me already? I'm not sure if you can hear me yet. All right, so I'm signing in. I was leaving this disconnected in case I had to sign in, but I'm going ahead and signing in right now to VDI. I'm going to be demoing things on VDI for the most part. Hi, Ali. Just as a quick reminder, Ali, I think you're on VDI, right? I think. Or do you have your own application? I can't remember. Please answer. Okay. I'm not sure. I don't remember, Ali. Okay, but if you're on your own applications, I wanted to make sure that you had a chance to I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted. There's a little spider crawling on the top of my screen. Let me just deal with that little, suddenly I can't focus too well. That is weird. Where did the spider appear from? I normally try to walk them out of the house, but
she wants to be in the class too, Diana.
I know. Illustrator, the spider wants to learn Illustrator. I just gently pushed her off. I don't know where she or it went. Okay. I was like watching it cross my screen was not the most comfortable situation. All right. So I'm in VDI right now, and all of us were on VDI. What we need to make sure is to connect to the Google Drive, and I need to wait for it to pop up, so I'll connect really quickly. But meanwhile, I want us to go down and open Illustrator. So if you're on VDI, head down to Start, and then open Adobe Illustrator. I'm going to click on that. So click to that little start sign, and then you can choose Illustrator to get it to open up. And sorry, I thought I was sharing my screen. I'm not sharing my screen yet. So, but y'all know how to do it. Let me share that screen. Here we go. So, Christian, I'm curious. You mentioned that you took the course a few years ago. Did you take it with me? Or if it was here it was a non-credit, maybe you took it with Say. I'm not sure.
Yeah, sorry, I'm sorry, but it went full screen, so I'm still learning this.
I apologize.
No, that's fine. It was you. Yes.
It was me. Okay, great.
It was with you. I know you were fantastic. I just to refresh my memory on all of it because I didn't use it after, and now I've forgotten everything.
No, that's great. So let me just say something. If my screen just took over your screen, which is then what you need to do is you need to hit first of all, hit the escape key to leave the full screen mode. And then you can grab the very far corner and hopefully bring it in to make the window smaller so that you can push it to half of your screen so that you have your other half available to open your own applications.
Okay.
Okay, let me know if you need a hand with that. Otherwise, I'm going to make the assumption that everyone is there. Okay, so Illustrator is open. And I need to also make sure that I'm signed into the Google Drive. Which I'm hoping, since I was just connected to it and I disconnected, anyway, I'm just going to make the assumption that it's refreshed. It's a new connection because I had just had it open and disconnected in Photoshop. All right, so I'm gonna skip Bridge for now with Illustrator. Most of the time we use it in digital design techniques, we use it a lot in Photoshop, we use it a lot. In Bridge for now, we might not need it. for the Illustrator class. So for now, I'm not going to make us open it. When I get around to really needing it, I'll show it to you. So now let's just stay with Illustrator opened up.
Deanna, this is Vera.
Yes, Vera?
Mine opened up, but it's super tiny and I don't know what to do to put it to a normal size.
Let me go ahead and share your screen. Sometime we were having issues with someone's resolution in Photoshop this morning too. Show me your screen. Okay, so yeah, that's really weird. So actually right now, just see if it works. If you hold down your control plus, see if it changes a bit.
No.
So click on the window. You might have something else to share your screen. You might have, so click on that window again so that it becomes the main thing. Okay, no, that's fine. That's enough as long as it's clicked. And now try the control plus. So we were having the opposite problem with someone having in their resolution. So let me, I'm going to request remote control. Are you seeing that message?
I saw it.
Okay, so go ahead and don't move your mouse anymore. Let me just see if perchance, minimize this for a little bit. Yeah, it's your entire screen that the resolution is weird. So let me go into the settings. This is the exact opposite of what was happening to someone else today. And you have 3 different screens. This is again what was happening to today's. So is it the first?
That was my very first opening when I worked.
Yeah, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna turn this custom scaling off to see if this is what solves, but you will be signed out of VDI, just so you know. When we do that, it sign you out. So now you need to, when it's over, say close, and we need to connect you again really quickly. So I'm gonna go back into the student desktop. I actually need to completely log you out and log you in again. And hopefully that fixes it. Otherwise, okay, here we are. And it's okay with that. And I think it's already more normal, yeah. So this was happening earlier today, the other way around. Things were looking huge. So and now in your case, it's looking really tiny and there's like this custom size. So I don't know if this continues happening, whether we need to send you to talk to the tech support. That said, if now it shows up fixed, then as you can see, it's just about changing the resolution settings, but it shouldn't be happening. And yet this is the second time today. So we'll see. So it takes longer to connect once you are on Zoom sharing your screen, and that's why it's taking as long as it's taking. But his important part, you're going to have to reconnect to Google, because if not right now, because of what happened, you will have your files corrupted. So I need to remind you how to disconnect and connect. So give us a second, everyone. And here we go. So this is still relatively small.
Is it because it's on half screen?
No. I'm trying to. It's still relatively small. Let me look at your system preferences, your Mac system preferences. You're on the default. That's not it. So in your case, this might have not done the job to fix it. I'm just gonna open Illustrator and find out. Well, this will take another couple, 30 seconds to a minute. So if anyone has any questions, this is a good time to ask me.
Well, I'm sorry, this is Joni. I had to leave because my dog was out barking at something. And I'm wondering, have you opened up a picture or are you just still looking at other pictures?
So Joni, I wasn't sure, are you on VDI or in?
No, just regular. I have a subscription.
Okay, and you downloaded the class files?
No, I didn't. So Yeah, I didn't do that.
Okay, so I need you to download the class files. That said, right now I'm going to be, anyway, so this is a bit more readable than before though.
Yes, it looks
It's,
normal.
yeah, it looks normal. So what you need to do now is connect to you're gonna have to disconnect, and I'm just gonna do it for you so that we can move forward. Disconnect and reconnect, because otherwise you're gonna have corrupted files. So I'm gonna disconnect. And now sign in with browser. Okay, so can you put in your pipeline username at pipeline.sbcc.edu? Okay, and then now hit next. Now, I was going to start with one of our class files, but now since I know that Joni doesn't have them yet, do you know how to download the class files, Joni?
Yeah, I wrote it all out. I'm going to try to do it myself.
Okay. All right. So let me know when you have them. Okay. So meanwhile, we're going to start with our own, we're just going to start with our own file. So, okay. So you're ready to go. So I'm going to stop your sharing. Anyone else have a question before we get going?
So where's the shared drive again?
It's in pipeline. So
No, I got all that. I mean, I'm in the student resources. Then do I go to Google Drive?
yeah,
Oh, Google Drive first.
Google Drive, and then on the left side, go to shared with you, or not shared, shared drives.
Okay, let's see. Oh yeah, shared drives. Okay, shared drive.
Okay, and there you'll see the Illustrator
Yes.
folder, and then double click on that, and then inside, when that all opens up at the top, there's a folder called download class files. Double click on, not double click on it, right click and download that folder.
Okay, it says Illustrator shared drive. Is that what I want to right click on?
Yeah, double click.
Oh, double click it first. Okay. Oh, here. Okay, wait.
And then there's a
There's a
folder.
little, download Illustrator
Yeah,
class.
so don't open that one. Just right click on it and
Right click.
download that folder.
Okay, great. Thank you. I can do it now from now. Okay.
Cool. All right. So, so it turns out that most of you have some experience in this application, for better or for worse. I think at this point, maybe Saul, I don't have, Saul, have you used it before? I know that you put things that you posted in the Padlet that you're working on this.
Yeah,
Is this
yes, I
inside
did.
of, is this in Illustrator?
Yes.
Okay, great. That's what I wanted to make sure. Okay, so that's good. I just wanted to confirm whether this that you had posted was Illustrator or not. All right, so let's go ahead and just create new, like from scratch, because probably files are still coming up for Joni. And when you start a new file, you can go to shortcuts here as to how to make a new print file or web file or mobile file or whatnot that you're trying to do. And depending on what you write here, the settings here that are going to be by default chosen for you are going to be different. The reason I'm looking and seeing who's here is because it would seem that all of you guys have had Illustrator before, either a while ago with me or a short time with you, but whoever's here in class is not a beginner, right? Am I sure? Am I right? I'm looking at all the names. Yeah. So it's cool for those of us who are here. We're going to be able to explain it at a higher level, but please, if there's something that your classes from so long ago that you really don't remember, please stop me and say, can you remind me about that? Or can you explain that again? You know what I'm trying to say? Because I want to take advantage of the fact that we have a class where everyone has taken Illustrator before and moved forward with this. And not start you out from the very basics, but I also don't want to just assume that you all remember everything. But most of you guys have taken the class relatively recently. So I'm going to really depend on like Saul, whose experience I don't know because he's new to me, Carlos and Christian, Joni, people who've taken the class a while ago, as far as I'm concerned, to remind me whether you need a refresher on something. Okay, you guys, can you promise me that?
Yeah,
Yeah, don't let things go by that I just gloss over. If you need a refresher, please ask me to explain that again or something like that. And people who just took the class too, because when you're new to the class, maybe when it just came through once, sometimes you still need a refresher. Okay, so I'm not saying that you can't all stop me, but in particular, I need to have a better idea of where some of the people that have taken this a while ago, where you might be. All right, so depending on what you choose up here, your initial settings will be different, right? So if you know that you're going to print it,
Sharing, Diana, I'm sorry.
oh,
You're not sharing.
oh, thank you. Always stop me and tell me that. Thank you so much, Patricia.
Okay.
Thank you. When other people share, sometimes I forget to reshare again. So thanks for the warning, because I'm seeing my screen. So you guys have to tell me you're not seeing my screen. So let me close up. What I did here is I went into the create new, which by the way, I have this here because it's Mac or PC would show it a little bit different. We could also create new just going from file new for people who are more accustomed to using the top menu. You end up in the same place. You end up in this place, which is telling you, well, either you can create something you've just created, which if you've just been creating things, you would have something under your recent. But if you haven't been just creating things, then you can go up here and decide what you're doing next. Or if you've already saved it and you had it that you've been working on it before, you might have it there. So right now, we're going to assume that nothing that we have, because everyone in the class, as far as this class is concerned, is new. What changes here is truly crucial. So you really need to pay attention to what's here. Because if you're going to, the end product is what you need to pay attention to. Here's the point I was trying to make, your end product. If it's going to be something that's for mobile use only, then you have a couple of presets here that help you already design within that size. And you could also say, well, view all the presets, because you're like, well, there's quite a few more than iPhone X at this point. You click on view all presets, and you can go down and see a couple of other sizes that are set up. But as you can tell, most of this are a little bit old. We are in Adobe Illustrator 2021, the VDI people. If you're at school, at home, you might have already Adobe Illustrator 2022. But for Adobe Illustrator 2021 to be what we're using, consider that they designed this in 2020, right? So really, the kind of presets that you have here are going to be about 3 years old. Does that make sense? As far as something like a phone, that matters. So be careful with this kind of thing, and don't assume anything. What you need to do if you're going to design something, say for an iPhone 13, you need to go online on Google and say, okay, I'm designing something for iPhone 13 that's Pro, Max, Plus, all the different names, Samsung, whatever, and find out what their pixel presentation will be. See how there's a different number over here, 1125 by 2436, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what you'll need. That said, as I am saying this, be careful, because I'm not talking about creating an app that's going to work on this phone. Let me be clear again. If you're going to create an app that's going to work on this phone, your app has to be created in an application that is going to be able to work for all of these phones at the same time. You're not going to create an app for each one of these phones. You're going to create an app that's going to resize itself to fit correctly into all of the phones. So where would you lose Illustrator for? Maybe you're making an advertisement for an iPhone, and you've got to make a logo or something that's going to be posted in the photograph of someone holding the iPhone, and you're going to fake what's on the phone, and you're going to put a little illustration in there. You're trying to see, and so then you want to know the exact proportion of that phone to paste that little illustration into it. But this is not the place where you're going to create an app for the phone. Okay? You won't create it in Illustrator. You might be creating elements for that, and you will test it to see how it fits in this size. So you'll make an application this size so that you can test and see how big those boxes or those elements or that logo is going to look when it's inside of a phone. All right. So anyway, it's kind of like I find that these are a little bit useless other than what I just said. If you're about to design something and you want to see how it looks when it's on a phone. Same thing, web, same considerations for the web. As you can see, web large, web small. Well, if you have a 13-inch laptop or if you have an iMac, you're still on the web. So how can I design only for one size or the other? It's been a while, but I used to teach all the web classes here. I think it's been about a year and a half. Maybe we had the first summer and online we had them, and then we haven't. But when you design for the web, you design in a different way, in the kind of blocks where everything is going to have to fit no matter what screen people are looking at. But if you're trying to fake a web screen, this is a good idea to look at their basic sizes that they have to be. So that's why here for class, I'm going to skip mobile and web. We're not going to use that a lot. We're usually going to use either print or art and illustration as our samples, because these are very specific. You do know if you're designing a poster, a catalog, a business card, right? You have a more specific size that you know based on your final product what you're going to be doing. But notice that the difference is going to be that when I choose to do web or mobile, my sizes are going to be layered, set up in pixels over here, and the color setting is going to be in RGB. Versus if you go to print, then this is going to be set up in points and you can switch that. So let's switch that now to inches so that we can understand it. And then down here, the color mode is going to be CMYK, because that's what's going to happen when you go to print. You're going to need to have things in colors in CMYK. So I'm going to spend more time explaining that as we move forward. But right now, let's make that choice. Let's say print inches. Okay, so change the size to inches. And then go down here and confirm that the color mode is in CMYK. We're going to actually change this size of the window. We don't want a letter size. Well, let's keep it letter size, but we want it to be landscape size. So click here on this little icon, and then it went from 8.5 to 11 to 11 by 8.5. Okay. And we're going to make one artboard. Artboard is kind of the equivalent of pages. So we're going to start with one artboard. And so now we're ready to go. And let's go ahead and say create down here. And we're opening our first, we're creating our first file. Did I? All right. So now, one thing that I need us all to do is whatever way it opened or not will look different depending on how you've been using your application. So the first thing we need to do, we need to go up to this top screen over here and search for this little icon that says workspaces when you hover over it. And it might be further to the right or further to the left if you're in a Mac or on a PC. And then you probably have opened up in this thing called Essentials Classic or Essentials. So I'm not sure which one you might be. I want us to go and choose Essentials in case you're in something else. And I also want you to be aware that so I want you to play around, that the big difference of what these are all about is that if you choose different choices, so say typography, what's going to happen is you're going to have a whole different set of tools available to you on the left side or on the right side for you to create your work. If you choose painting, you'll get a whole bunch of brushes and colors. If you go over here and choose web, then you're going to have material that you're going to be using for the web. So the tools available, so this really does make a difference. So I want us all to be on the very basic essentials so that we're all on the same one. And then I want us to go down here and say reset essentials. Now, the reason I need us to reset essentials again is, especially if you've been in my classes before, we move things around, we change things. And right now to start, I want us all to be in the exact same spot. So we're choosing essentials and then reset essentials. So now we should all be looking at the exact same window. So if your window is a little bit different than mine or not, please let me know, because technically this should be the way, the beginning point for all of us. So please confirm, give me a yes if this is where you're at. Now, if you've taken my class before this last spring, okay, so up until the last spring, we used to use Essentials Classics, which I personally still use in my personal life. It has many more tools. As you can see over here, there's a ton of tools, there's stuff up here, and there's lots of stuff over here, and it technically can become more complicated to learn at the beginning using the Essentials Classics. Once you've learned Essentials Classics, you might, which is the old Essentials that we've had for 20 years, you might want to later branch out to a different one. The reason I'm working on just Essentials now, because by default, any person who first shows up to Illustrator at this point in their lives, this is what's considered the new Essentials, which is a pared down kind of presentation. So if you were in spring with me, I taught already using this Essentials, but as of last year and any time in the past, I was using the other window. So things have changed a little bit. Just warning you for how come this might look a bit different than how you've used before, for those of you who've done this before. And basically look at how pared down the toolbar is. It's just a few of the essential tools. And over here on the right side, we have a properties panel that before wasn't so useful, but now it's kind of where we're going to get almost everything we need. If we don't find it here or here, then we'll go up to Windows and bring some new stuff in. Okay. So this is a better beginning point for beginners. It also means that for those of you who are accustomed to that top panel, you'll have to get accustomed to seeing everything that you choose on the panels over on the toolbars over here. We'll go straight over to this properties panel, and it actually is very useful. I find that it's missing some things, but for the most part, it's very useful.
Diana?
Yes.
If you're in the middle of something and you're using just Essentials, can you just switch to Essentials Classic?
Yeah, you can switch to whatever you want. And all that's going to happen is that the panels available to you are going to change. The tools available are you going to change, but nothing's going to happen to your art.
Okay, great. Mm-hmm.
So you can keep, it's a great question. You can keep switching and say, well, now I'm done with the painting part of this and I want to put some typography on it. And you're going to have to individually open each window that's missing, or you can just go and click on typography to get all of the typography tools handy. It's basically, imagine that you have a studio, a personal studio that's so big. You're the kind of artist that does a bit of everything. You wouldn't want all your tools out open at the same time. You would say, well, right now I'm doing pottery, and bring out your clay, and then you just kind of put it away and then bring out your quilting material, and then you put your quilting material away and you bring out your watercolor stuff, you know? So that's kind of what's happening, but you might be applying your watercolors to that piece of pottery. I don't know how that would work, but you know, I mean, it doesn't affect your art. It's what tools you have available around you. All right. Just to not be overwhelmed, this Essentials one covers a lot of ground. Okay. But yes, you can definitely switch to something else if you want something. Now, my recommendation though would be that instead of switching to something completely, say that you're just missing one thing that you want to use here and not a ton of stuff. Then you say, okay, I want everything that Essentials has, but I really would like to have, say, the characters panel for typography. Then you can go to Window and head down. What would it be called here? The characters is in type, because you would go over here and say, I want the type panel for characters. So you click on that and boom, the type panel for characters pops up. So now you have Essentials and you have the type character. Does that make sense? Anyway, so I'm just going to close that up. So anytime that you have anything that you're missing, you can always go to the window here and pull it up. Does that make sense, you guys? Once you get comfy with this, if you've been using all of this for a long time, you might also get to the point where you discover that you don't want any of these. What you want is your own. So you open up this, you open up that, you make the panels fit your own way, and then you say, okay, create a new workspace called Diana's workspace. And then it has all the tools that you like to use. And you don't have to go with any of their presets. Does that make sense? So right now, we're going to start with this one. And then as we adopt it and change it, we'll find out whether it's worth now to create a new workspace called your own and work with that. All right. So first of all, I just want to remind you that to zoom in and out here, we're going to hold down the control or command key. The reason mainly is because for VDI people, if you're a Mac user, when you're in VDI, the VDI portion is PC. So although on the Mac, you might use Command plus, on VDI, you're a PC user, so you need to use Control plus to get bigger, plus, 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 and Control minus to get smaller. Okay, so you control minus, minus, minus. So I'm holding the control or the command the whole time, and then plus, 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 minus, minus. So I just wanted to show you again that to remind all Mac users that they really are PC users for this portion of the class when you're on VDI. So anytime that I say use control or command, Windows and VDI users use control, Mac users not on VDI use command. That's the only difference between the shortcuts that we're going to have. All right. So now most of you guys have used Illustrator before. So let me run through this quickly. All these tools have shortcuts to get to them. And just as a reminder, if I want to get to the selection tool, I can either go all the way here and tap on it, or see how when I hover it, it says selection tool, and then it says V. That V would bring me to that selection tool. And if you were in my morning class in Photoshop, I also already told you this for Photoshop, right? That the V is the move tool, the selection tool. So it's the same thing. If I want to do the type tool, I'll hit the T. So now I hit the T. And when I hit the T, there we go. I've selected the type tool. If I want to use the pen tool, I hit the P and I go to the pen tool and so on and so forth. So all of these, the I for the eyedropper, if you know these for one program, you know them for the other. And it's the same system where, so now I'm going to hit the V because I'm going to go back to the selection tool. There is a difference from Photoshop though, in that in the selection tool, we have two different types in Illustrator. And let me get one of you guys to remind me, does anyone know what would be, again, since you're all a bit more veteran to Illustrator, what's the difference between the black or the white selection tool, which would be called the selection tool, or the direct selection tool? Does anyone remember offhand what the big difference is?
The direct selection tool will allow you to manipulate little points along a vector, create points, manipulate points, add points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And not add points, but yes, everything else you said. And then what's the black or selection tool do?
The bounding box for a whole shape.
Yeah, it lets you select a shape, move it around, and it lets you actually, the container that holds it, which is called the bounding box, can be manipulated to make things wider or taller, thinner, or shorter. So we're going to do really quick. Let's go and create a shape. So here we have all of our shapes. This under this rectangle, if I click and hold, we have all a bunch of different shapes. So let's go ahead and start with the star tool this time, since most of you guys have used some of these tools before. So let's head over to the star tool. And we're going to go ahead.
Diana, I have a quick question.
Yes.
Are you using Essentials Classic or regular Essentials? I'm sorry.
Regular Essentials.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Regular Essentials. So let's go and click on, yes, because already you saw a difference here in the tools. If you're in Classic, there's a very different set of tools. So star tool. And before I start drawing a star, I might want to choose the appearance of that star. So again, if you're accustomed to choosing it up here, now you have to go over here to the properties to choose it. And I'm going to click a fill. And I'm going to use one of the colors here. I'm going to choose whatever burgundy-ish for my star. Okay. And then I'm going to choose not to have a stroke. So I'm going to head over to stroke and I'm going to go and choose no stroke over here. And you guys don't have to have the same star I'm making. So you can choose to make your star a different set of colors. The only thing I want to make sure is that you don't make your stroke blue. Don't make a blue or a stroke or fill blue right now. Hold on, I think I left my water. Where did I leave my water? Okay. I happen to have not ideal. I have a soda here left over from who knows where. I'm gonna open that and I'm getting hoarse. I need to drink something. I don't know where I left my water, so give me a sec. Take a sip. It's been sitting here for quite a while. All right. So I've created my fill, said I don't want any stroke, and I've chosen my star. So now I'm going to just click and draw, and a star comes out. And notice that until I let go, I can change its position or its direction. And once I let go, then I'm done. That's my star. Now, if I want to create any other kind of star, I can use modifying tools, but right now, what I want to do is to not create any more stars. I want to move it. But the problem is that I still have the star making tool in my hand. So when I want to actually grab this and do something, what happens there? I'm actually, making another star. I'm like, darn it. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to move it, right? So remember that when you have a tool in your hand that does something, when you're done using it, you need to go straight back to the selection tool, the black selection tool, what was the shortcut to get to the black selection tool? The V. So hold on to tap the V. Good. And now you can select this shape that you made 2 or 3 of, that you didn't mean to make 2 or 3 of. And you can get rid by hitting the delete key, the ones that you didn't want to make. Okay, so then we're left with 1 again. So I want you to make sure to remember that the most important thing about these tools is that once you're done, you immediately move out of it. All right, so now I made this star, and when I'm in my V black selection tool, I have this bounding box that wraps it. It's like a container that holds it. Think of a little basket. And in this black selection tool, we can modify the shape by modifying it by grabbing the handles of my bounding box. So I can grab this handle and make it, stretch it out, make the top one and make it skinnier. It's almost beginning to not look like a star, but in the end, it still is just a stretched out, modified star. I could almost get it to still look like the star I had before, but it's really hard to ever, by hand, by eyesight, go back to what I had. But I've got a near enough impression, but the star still has as many points as it had, as many tips as it had, et cetera, et cetera. So that's all you can do with the bounding box. Actually, there's one more thing you can do with the bounding box is you can put your mouse outside any of these little handles. These white things are called little handles. I can put my hand outside of them, like, within the nearest quarter inch or something like that. And I get this little double-headed arrow. So now I can swivel. So I can swivel things around. So that's the next thing I can do with the bounding box with the V.
Diana?
Yes.
For some reason, I can't even make the star.
All right. So
I have a little box and it looks like it just keeps going down to the right with little
all right,
dots.
so go ahead and share your screen with me so that I can see what's happening.
I don't know what is
Just so y'all know, the best way to help people is 99% of the times is to have you share your screen. A few things I can answer with a quick, verbal cue. For the most part, I have to have you share. So let me remind you, to share your screen, you have to click the share screen button first.
Mhm.
And then for those of you who haven't shared your screen yet, then you have to click another share. So if one of these is going to be your first share, I'll help you, I'll talk you through it. Okay, so go and choose your star, go to the left side hold on to that. No, that's not where you choose your tool. Say
Oh,
cancel. Go
Okay.
up to the rectangle, which is up higher. That one, click and hold.
Oh,
And go
okay,
down
that's
to the
the
star.
one. Okay, I'm
There we
sorry.
go. And no, that's fine. And now
Okay.
there's your star.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Now go change to your move tool or selection tool or V tool. Yep. And now you can squish it and modify it and do weird things to it.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you. All right. Good. Anyone else before I share my screen again? Any other questions? No. Okay. I'll share my screen again. All right. Clearing you guys' feedback. All right. So that's for better or for worse. The good and the bad news about this V tool is that it's our hands. It's like our most handy tool. It's the one that causes the least destruction because really the only thing we need to make sure of is to avoid clicking on the handle so we don't distort our object in a way that we don't want. And then other than that, it helps us move things and do stuff like that. Now, what's the difference between this tool and the white selection tool? Who remembers the shortcut for the white selection tool?
A.
Yes, it is. It's A. So if V is the black selection tool, then A, the opposite, is the white selection tool or direct selection tool. So let's shift over to the white or direct selection tool. First of all, if I put my mouse in the very middle of my shape, you will see. Let me actually get a bit bigger here because in the end, yeah. So in the white selection tool or direct selection tool or A, there's the shortcut A, the bounding box disappears. And what we are seeing here, and this is what Sam called points. Let's make sure to remind each other, just vocabulary wise, they are anchors, but yeah, it's a good idea. It's points, basically the little tips, the little spots that give our shape its shape, right? Our object, these are called objects, its shape. These tips are called anchor points. So with the white selection tool, if I now try to go and select one of these little anchor points and move it, whoa, the whole thing still moves. So remember, it's a click and then another click. So right now, all of the points are blue. If I try to grab one, it's all going to move. I need to click and then click again and see how the rest now went white. And this one is still green. Now I can click on it again and begin to move things around to distort it. So it's like a few clicks. It's first click to select, then click to isolate this point, then grab this point and move it. Okay, so it's 2 or 3 clicks until I've isolated the point or the anchor enough to move it. And now that I've done that, I can just go straight to any other one and just move it directly without having to do all the different ins and outs, because by then I've managed to have the shape know that I'm trying to distort it. And now with very few movements, we end up with a shape that is far from the star that we started with, right? Now, the other thing I could move with the A or white selection tool is the line in between the 2 anchor points is called a path. So I can not only grab an anchor point and move it, but I can also grab the path and move it. Okay, so I can grab a path over here and drag it down. I can grab this path over here and drag it over. In this case, I'm managing to get this little overlapping thing. So we can move paths and we can move anchor points. All right. So everyone, hopefully you've distorted your shape enough to have no idea that it ever was or ever thought of being a star. The only thing that's left being identical to before is the amount of anchor points and paths that we're working with. As you notice, I haven't added any anchor points, or I haven't added any paths. So if I could begin to reassemble this in one way or another, I could probably come back to having a star. I have never tried this, but why not? I mean, I'm sure if I get, I have to do a single click and then click it again. I guess I could Bring this guy in again, bring this guy out again, bring this guy in again. And I kind of have a star again, if you know what I mean. Because in the end, yeah, trust me, guys, this is a star. I say so, so it's a star. I basically have my star again, because I'm working with the same amount of anchors and paths as I were before. Okay, so how do we make changes? As you can see, I'm kind of speeding through the stuff that normally would take me like a day or two. So stop me if you are lost or want to hear some more, or if this isn't working for you, or if you're trying and it just doesn't do what you think it should do, please stop me. Okay, so so before we add more anchor points, or before we add more paths, well, we don't add more paths, we only add more anchor points, but then new paths get created, right? So the only thing we manipulate are anchor points, really. Before I add some more, let me distort this again so it doesn't look like a star again for a second here, so that we can be very clear that this is the modified shape. Okay, so now there's some other little widget thingies that have been appearing. And that's these little circles. These little circles are showing up right on the opposite side of the anchor point, sometimes inside the shape, sometimes outside the shape. Just like the anchor points, if I was to just grab one at this, just one, and a single click, grab one, it's going to operate on all of them at the same time. I'm going to grab this one and drag in, and I have eliminated the pointiness, so to say, of all those tips and turned all those tips into curves. And I did it to all of these at the same time. Now let's grab that same one and drag it out again, bing, until we've got our big sharp tips again. And so you can see that I can curve them or bring them back down. Now notice when I curve them, I end up with 2 anchor points, where before I had 1. And now when I go back to a tick, I have 1 anchor point. So there's a big physical change there. Let's all go back to that. What do we do if I really only wanted to curve a couple of these and not all of them? Just like we did before, I need to click on one first to select it. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I just need to select it and then select it again. See how now this has a little blue ring to it, whereas the other don't. And then I can click on only operate on this one. And then once I've isolated, so again, it's a matter of click, not double click, it's click and then click again. And then once you isolate one, then you can curve only that one. Okay. And then I'm going to go in here and click on this one, which is outside, and then curve it in that direction. So now I have a combination of sharp line anchor points, straight angle, they're called anchor points, or curved anchor points available. I can always grab from the fill and drag this around. But if I want to now go back to shoot on 1 anchor point, remember again, I have to click 1 time and then click again. Each time I click right now to operate only 1. And then I can only go back to that first only one, click on it again, click on it 2 times, and then sharpen only that one and not the rest. All right. So is that working for everyone? Are you all comfy and remember now how to use all of these? Yep. Give me a big old yes if you are okay, if you don't have any questions. All right, so now what happened, interesting, because when I did this one here and moved it out, I ended up with this point way out here that I can also use to manipulate. Okay,
Diana,
yeah,
for some reason my my point doesn't obey me as yours.
right.
I don't know how to bend or get the points, but I cannot share. I'm sorry.
Oh, here I was, right, as you can see, ready to share. Yeah, it's hard when you cannot share how to explain. If you're on the white selection tool, just make sure to click one time.
Uh-huh.
Sorry, this mouse is making, every time I do it with this mouse, it's just jumping. Select one time, one of the tips, then
Okay.
select again. And once it's a different color, see how it's blue and the rest went white, then I can move it. Same
Oh,
thing
okay.
with same thing with this little anchor point. If I click on it at first to use it, I'm going to mark all of them at the same time. So you need to select it and then select it again. Then you can drag it in or out. It's like, other than explaining it that way, unless I see you doing it and then I can capture what's wrong.
I got it, Diana.
You got it?
Yeah. So
Okay.
the inside bends them and the other outside just moves them or
Well,
store them.
it's not about inside or outside, because in this case, the circle is on the outside, and this case it's on the inside. It's that the circle causes a sharp angle to turn into a curve, versus the anchor point itself just moves the anchor point. See that this doesn't move anything. The little circular thing doesn't move anything. It converts the sharp ankle point into a curvy ankle point. That's
Okay.
what that one does. It can be inside or outside. It doesn't matter. This is on the inside and it's still converting it into a curve. Versus the anchor points themselves, if I move them, they alter the position of that anchor point, but it stays sharp.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Diana.
Now, it's possible also to have created this into a curve, and then I move this curved anchor point. And when I do that, I haven't touched those yet, but if I leave this as a curve, and now I grab an anchor point that's not an angle, but it's part of a curve, when I click on it, this is already a hybrid kind of anchor, in that on the left side, or in this case, the right side, it's still a sharp line. And on the left side, it's a curve. So I can use this little handle to alter. So I can grab the little handle. I click on the curve icon and I grab this little handle to start altering the shape of this curve. So these little handles pop out only from the curves kind of shapes. Okay, so this is a half, it's a hybrid anchor point, half curved, half straight. So there's no handles here. There's only handle on this side. And the reason it's giving me handle only on this side is because that side is straight and this side is curvy. So you're only going to have handles on the curves. So if I go over here and click on this, I don't have any handles. If I click on this one, I once again have a little handle here that lets me do weird stuff with this. Okay, I can move that handle there, move this handle there, and I'm just doing weird stuff to that curve just by moving the handles. Does that make sense, you guys? So now the anchor point is still this point always, but the curved anchor point is going to have a handle. This is called a handle that allows me to manipulate the curve. And we're going to learn more about how to manipulate the curve. But right now, this is what I want you to do. Just grab the little tips of those handles. So now this is why I told you do not use blue for your fill or for your stroke, because these paths are blue. And I wanted to make sure that you could see all these handles and ankle points and stuff, because they get confused otherwise in the mix of, in the big mix of, how do you call it? In the mix of, if the stroke is blue, then you have a harder time seeing it. Does that make sense? All right. I want to make sure that everyone's comfy, because we've basically manipulated everything we can with what we started with. Believe it or not, this is the same as the star still. And now we're going to move on to creating extra anchor points, or get rid of anchor points. Okay, so this is an existing shape, and this existing shape has the kind of of, how do you call it? Has the existing, it doesn't have the same amount of paths as I started with just because I converted them. So I'm trying to make sure that what I'm saying is accurate. When I first created this, I had a certain amount of paths based on how many points I had. By having converted some of those points to curves, now I have extra paths just because I've added 2 anchor points. But other than that, this is the same shape. It's interesting. It almost looks like a running man with wings or something. Who knows what you end up with when you play around with these things. Here, let's move this guy over so it looks a little bit more like a leg that's pointing up and one that's pointing out. Anyway, all right. So now, what if I want to put another anchor here? What tool can I use? Well, it all depends. There's so many different things that, so many different choices that I need. There's not so many different, there's some choices I need to make right now. First of all, someone had said someone in the Padlet had said they wanted to learn the pen tool. Was it Christian? Someone had mentioned that they wanted to use the pen tool well.
I also want to use the pen tool because I
Okay.
have a tablet and I'm not comfortable with it.
Okay,
So,
actually here it is, Megan, but she's not in class right now. She had mentioned wanting to use the pen tool. Okay.
yes,
So it's
definitely.
so here's the deal. There are 2 things that look like pen tools over here. And we're going to spend a little minute with them now. But I just want to remind you, some of you might have learned to use only one if you took the class a while ago. If you took a class not so much of a while ago, you might have learned to use both, because I've been teaching one or the other depending on the class, or both. So there's 2 different ones. And the easiest way to stereotype them is that it's easier to make straight lines with this pen tool, and it's easier to make curved lines with this one, which is called the curvature tool. It's not even called the pen tool, it's called the curvature tool. That said, you can create curves with that one and straight lines with this one. They can both create anything you want. The difference is that they operate tremendously differently. So if you've been using one all your life, the other one will be like, huh? But if you've using this one all your life, it's the first one that'll be like, what? Right? So they truly have to be handled differently. And yet you're like, come on, they're 2 pen tools. How differently can they be used? They really do operate differently. The pen tool for eons has been a part of Illustrator. And even before Illustrator, this is a software that was called Freehand bazillions of years ago from Macromedia before Adobe bought it and turned into Illustrator. So the pen tool has existed forever. It also exists both in Photoshop and in InDesign. So it's an iconic tool and it's really good to know how to use it. But guess what, guys? It's not that easy to use. Some people take the class, and I always used to say that when I taught the pen tool was the day they decided that they'd drop Illustrator. And other people would take the day that I taught the pen tool and decide, oh my God, this is the best thing ever, right? There was like this black or white kind of decision there. It's like, yes or no, pen tool or not pen tool. Illustrator makers knew that, and at some point decided, maybe we should make an easier tool to use. And they created the curvature tool, which is much easier to use than the original pen tool. Much easier to use, especially for beginners. But it's as in everything, there's things one tool does better than the other. I like to know both. Obviously, that's, as far as I'm concerned, the best thing is to know both. But I am also aware that it is not possible to always know all. And if you need to know only one of them at this point, I would say go ahead and learn the curvature tool, because it is much easier to use. So right now, I'm going to do a little review of these tools, and then we'll decide which one we want to use next to add, because we need to use one of these 2 to add points to this shape, okay? To add anchors to this shape. So we're going to go ahead and create some shapes with these tools, and we'll decide what the difference is. And this is something that been explored a little bit more, in part because we're zooming through all of this as a review, because you already know how to do a lot of this. So it's pretty cool. Okay, so give me a second. I want to look at this time to see how we're doing with time. We're fine. All right, good. I'm getting accustomed to the new schedules of classes and trying to see how we're doing with time and break time and stuff like that. So I just want to say that these classes are relatively long, right? We can either have 2 short breaks or 1 longer break in the middle. Like we can have a 15-minute break in the middle, or we can do like 2, 5, or 7-minute breaks. I have a preference, but you guys are the ones who have to, be comfy with the class. So how about you give me a vote if you would prefer 2 short breaks or if you'd rather 1 longer break. So if you want 2 short breaks, like 2 7-minute breaks, go ahead and say, let me clear your feedback. So if you want 2 short breaks, give me a yes. If you want 1 longer break, give me a no. And again, nothing means yes or no. It's just the way you have to choose in order to. So yes for 2 short breaks, no or red for 1 long break. And you all need to vote, otherwise, you don't count. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 versus 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, has everyone voted? Yes. So keeps dropping in and out. Oh, no, there you are, Saul. You didn't drop out. Saul, what's your vote? Otherwise, I'll go with the choice right now. So yes or green means you want 2 short breaks. Red or no means you want 1 long break. Okay, so 1 long break. I'm just going to say that we're going with 1 long break, because that's, even if you vote differently, there's a majority already of long breaks. So there you go. Not that I don't care about your vote, but it would make no difference. Oh, I'm going to mute you. So something's happening to your sound. So I think you need to mute yourself, because there's a lot of like ambient noise, or maybe you're walking or something and it's making noise. Okay. Thank you. All right. I can't hear you. So I'm hearing like a whale sound, that kind of thing. So if you're trying to say something that matters, maybe you should write it in the chat. Your sound is coming out very distorted. I know you're trying to say something, but I don't know what you're saying. All right, I'll wait for you to write it in the chat, or to get to a place where your connection is better so you can make sound again. I think you're moving around. All right, guys, we're going to go for 1 longer break. So we're still not at that point. All right, so now I want us to add an artboard. Again, this is one of those things. Adding an artboard is one of those things that actually, let me say Control minus or Command minus or Control plus or Command plus is how you get bigger and smaller. So go ahead and let's not add another artboard yet. Let's just make the artboard a bit smaller. Let's move this shape over to 1 corner. If necessary, you can make it smaller with the bounding box to move it to 1 corner. And if you really like the shape you've made and you don't want to distort it, what do you need to do to make this smaller or bigger? Like if I just grab it and make it smaller right now, I'm distorting it, right? So if I don't want to distort it, what do I need to do?
Press Shift.
Hold down the Shift key so that now when I grab the corner, it gets bigger or smaller without being distorted. I'm going to make it smaller, leave it in the corner just to get it out of the way. Because remember, in Illustrator, I can just easily make it bigger again. And as opposed to Photoshop, nothing changes. The resolution doesn't matter. And I can make it smaller and bigger, and it's going to be exactly the same and just as sharp by the time we're done. So let's move this shape that we've been playing with that started out as a star and move it in 1 corner. And now we're going to play around with these 2 tools. the first one I'm going to teach, the one that I think is the best, you're going to learn one. I think the best one to learn right now is the curvature tool. So give me a yes if you're comfy with a curvature tool. No, if you've no idea or never heard about it or only used it once and have very little knowledge of the curvature tool. So give me a yes if you understand it, or no if yeah, I barely used it.
Been a long time for me, so I'm gonna say no.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. And by the way, I haven't shown it much. So most of you old timers know the pen tool. New people barely know a bit of the other one. Yeah, so mostly it's not. And yeah, cool. So let's go choose the curvature. In the end, I find it that the pen tool used to give people the shivers. The curvature tool is more like, oh, I can use that. So that's good. So click on the curvature tool. First of all, we're going to do the opposite. We're not going to use a fill. Just to make it easier to start using it, let's go over to the appearance properties panel, go to the fill and say no fill. So choose none. Then we're going to go to the stroke and we're going to say yes stroke and choose any color that's not blue. I'm going to go for orange. And just to make it easier for you guys to see, I'm going to make it let's make it pretty thick, 3 or 4 point, just so it's easier. Maybe orange is a bit too light. I'm going to go for the deeper orange. There you go. Just so that you can see my curves a bit better. Not my curves. You know what I mean. Okay, so I'm going to do Command plus so I can get a little bit bigger. All right. So now I've got a stroke, a 4-point stroke, no fill, and watch. When the little red dot is just so that you can see my mouse better, but you'll have a little pen tool and it has an asterisk shape at the bottom. When the shape has an asterisk, it means it's about to start a new shape. Okay, so I'm going to click, a point just dropped. I'm going to click again and a line appears. But then as I move my mouse, a curve, I'm not clicking anywhere. I'm just showing you that this little curve is kind of like stuck to my hand. And that blue line is creating the shape that that curve is going to turn into the moment I click my next line. So I'm going to now drop a line right there and see what happened to the curve. It's beginning to shape itself, both the one ahead and after. So the new curve is going to take the shape of that blue line after I click. After I click. After I click. See what's happening? So it doesn't only affect the curve that I am about to make right now, but it also affects the one preceding it that right now is kind of going out and now it's going to go in. Does that make sense? So now we can make all kinds of little clicks and I get all kinds of little shapes. And if all I do is click, by the time I want to close this shape, I need to go all the way. Let me go all the way to that first little circle, right? And I need to click right there, first little circle, for it to close up. And now I have a closed shape. I know that you might think you have no control over them right now. That's not my point. I'm just right now, let's shape, whatever shape is coming out is the shape that we're going to make.
So do you use the curvature tool now instead of the pen tool most of the time?
I have used the pen tool for 20 years, so I kind of still use the pen tool a lot. But when I teach it, I notice that this is much easier to use for beginners. So I teach this one and I use both whenever I need. My point is the best thing to do is to know both, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you choose. So right now I'm starting by showing you this one first, and then I'll show you the differences or not with the original pen tool. I still use the pen tool more just because that's, you know, I've used it for so long. It's like my second nature. But I have to acknowledge that this one has many good points to it. Now, have you all closed your shape? All right. What I mean close your shape is connecting it to the beginning point. Now, notice that if I now want to modify this shape, it's relatively simple. With the same curvature tool, I go back and I grab, make sure that you are grabbing that your shape is not a plus sign or anything else. It has to be that little circle. I grab this guy and I drag it over. And then I drag this one and I drag it over. And I make this one and I drag it over. And then I move this one over and I drag it over. So basically, I'm not really modifying the shape at this point as much as what I'm doing is I am placing them in different points, which then does, of course, because it's a curve, does modify its shape. But right now I'm still working with the points that I have. Does that make sense? I have to go to the points that I have. This you could not do with a pen tool. I'm just showing you, but for those of you who know it well, otherwise I won't bother talking about the pen tool in comparison yet until we get to the pen tool. So I'm still in my curvature tool and say, no, I dropped this one in the wrong spot. Let me move it over. I dropped this one. So that's what I'm doing. Now say that we say, okay, that's good, but I think I needed an extra point somewhere over here. See how when I'm touching the line, the path, without pointing to an existing anchor point, now it has a little plus sign. See that? So if I have a plus sign and click, I have added a point to that, which I can now grab and move. Added a plus sign, and then I can move. Okay, so this is how we add anchor points with the curvature tool. And then we move some, and then I add one. Now, the only thing you need to be aware of is to not click on the two sides. If I click right now, it's not the plus sign. What is this? It's an asterisk, which means what? An asterisk means new shape, new shape. So if I click on this nearby, but not on top of it, and I get an asterisk, I'm basically creating a new shape. Okay. So then when I try to go back to this one, it's like, what happened to this one? I can't select it. I'm basically always with an asterisk. I'm about to make a new shape again, even if, you know what I mean? So you can select and then add a new one. Okay, so you need to look at what that little thing is doing. If it's an asterisk, if it's a plus sign, if it's a circle, it lets me move it. Okay. All right. That's the good news. What if I don't want one of these? Well, if I don't want one of these, how do I get rid of them? Well, it's pretty simple. Select the one that you don't want. So say I don't want this one right there. Select it and hit your delete key on your keyboard. Boom. Select the delete key and select the icon, the little one that you don't want anymore, and say I don't want this one anymore. Get rid of it. Delete key on the keyboard. Sounds pretty simple, right? How's it going for everyone? Yeah. Let me actually clear your feedback. So the good news is that I can do everything I've just shown you. I've been able to do with just one tool. At this point, if we'd been using the pen, and this is the only comparison I'm going to make, I would have had to shift and done a lot of different like modifying keys to be able to do all of this. Okay, so the simplicity of this tool is that you can, with the same tool, select, modify, select, drag, select, delete, or click and add. Okay. Now, notice that they're all curves. What if what I wanted to do is to make it a straight line? Well, if I go here and I double click, I'm turning it into a straight line. And I double click this one. So I have to go to an existing thing, and I double click that one. And I'm turning these into straight lines from the curves that they were. Okay. Does that make sense, you guys? Double click existing ones. If I double click to make a new one, all I'm doing is adding one. So first I need to add it, and then I have to double click to turn them into straight lines. Many times when you click on one, it doesn't look so much like straight line because the other side is still curved. But when you click on 2 or 3 of them, you notice that they are turning into straight lines. Okay. Now, what if that straight line, you wanted it to still be a curve? Well, you can just grab it and double click it again, and it turns back into a curve. Just double click. By double clicking, you are changing from hybrid to curved, from curved to straight, straight to curved. We're all still using one same tool. You notice the tool hasn't changed. I'm still in my curvature tool. It's called the curvature tool, but it was able to make straight lines or not. So what if I'm making a new shape? Well, if I'm making a new shape and I want only straight lines, I have to double click, double click, double click, double click, double click, double click, double click. Oh, I didn't double click on that one. Double click to the end, and then I have to go and double click that one because I had missed out on double clicking. So now I've made straight lines with the curvature tool, but instead of single clicking, I've double clicked. Pretty cool, right? And now I can just double click on it to turn them back into curves. And then grab that one, and look, I've got a little upside down little crown there, which I didn't mean to make, but there you go, I did make. Not upside down, sideways. Anyway, you know what I mean. Okay. So that said, I'm going to grab this shape now, and I just went to the select. Sorry, my tool right now is, this is what I meant by the little crown sideways. I wasn't intending to make that, but it just turned out. Okay, so if you have never grappled with a pen tool, you might not notice, but those of you who have grappled with a pen tool, this is way easier to use. But if you are accustomed to the pen tool, it's really confusing because it works so differently that you're like, I don't know which one I like better. So if you don't know either one and you learn one, there you go. Use this one. I've shown you how to do just about everything. You select it by clicking it. So you can stay in your curvature tool the whole time. You can, as long as you click right on to it and not in between, you select it, then you modify it, then you add points, then you turn them into curves, then you turn them back into lines, then you get rid of them by hitting the delete key. So there's just basically nothing really left here to that you could have done with the other tool. The only thing you can't do well with this tool is when you're trying to trace an existing shape. It's harder to make these curves go to the exact tracing shape of the existing shape than you would if you are in the other pen tool. But in order to trace something correctly with the other pen tool, you need to know how to handle it well. So, so much for one or the other. All right. Any questions before I move on? I'm going to click clear on your feedback. No questions? All good? All right. All right. So I'm going to go back to the V. Don't go back to it by hand. Hit the V, right? Because then you can hit the V tool right there. Hit the V on your keyboard. And then go ahead and move these little shapes that you've made. If you select it now, the whole thing is selected. So you get to delete the whole thing. And let's make this one also a little bit smaller. Let's put them over here. This is what we made with the curvature tool. lines, straight lines, select, double select. Oh, actually, one more thing. Let's actually go back to big. Now, if you want to keep modifying this shape in the future, you're done, you have it. You can either go back to the curvature tool, select it again, and keep modifying from there, right? But as you can see, this is the only limitation. The only modification you can do is moving the position of the anchor point, which then moves the curve. But when I move one curve, the other one moves too. What if I wanted that one to stay there? If I move this curve, well, the other one's going to move at the same time for it to adapt, right? So you have a little bit, I'm trying to move only this one, and yet the one underneath it is moving too. So it feels like you have a little bit less control. Does that make sense? So if you want extreme control, then you need to switch. What tool do you think I'm going to suggest?
Pen tool. Maybe.
Pen tool, but before we go to the pen tool, something else I've already shown you.
Oh, direct select.
The direct selection tool. Because what's the direct selection tool going to give me?
Control over
the white one. Control over the handles. It's going to give me handles. Because if I click with the direct selection tool on these things, I have handles.
Right.
And with the handles, I can move this curve without affecting that one. It only affects the two curves next to it, right? So the problem with that is that I might end up with a curve that isn't very happy. It looks kind of weird, but it's not affecting that one or that one. It's only affecting the two next to it, okay? Just those two. Versus the curvature tool is going to, if I move this, it's going to move those others too. It just affects, because it's trying to keep the curve looking good. It's trying to make a good curve that has to initiate somewhere else. So already you notice this curve, no matter how much I move it, still looks kind of smooth, versus here that I moved it with the direct selection tool. See how I have a weird little kind of angle there? Because the direct selection tool only moves the two little guys to each side. And so you might end up with something that's a little bit, you know, iffy or weird, that you wouldn't have had that happen to you with the curvature tool. But it gives you full control at the same time, which you wouldn't have had otherwise. So the ultimate control is always with the white or direct selection tool. Okay, we're going to play with that one a little bit more, but I just wanted to point out that that's the limitation of the curvature tool. It moves the anchor points, and the computer decides what the other curves around it are going to do. So in that sense, you have a little bit less control. All right, let's go ahead and go to the V selection tool, grab this bounding box, make it smaller by the shift key if you like the shape you made, so that it just sits there on its own. And so remember, you can make straight lines by double clicking, double clicking, double clicking, double clicking. Oh, I didn't double click enough. Double click. I didn't start that with a double click. So double click, double click, double click, double click, double click, double click, double click. So I just want to, the last one. I just want to make a point to show you that yes, with the curvature tool, you can make all curves, hybrids, or straight lines. Okay, so just because it's called the curvature tool doesn't mean you can't get straight lines out of it. All right, so that's the curvature tool. I'm looking again at my time. We're at time to take a break, so we're going to work on the pen tool when we get back. Let's go ahead and save this first. Let's do a file, save. This is going to take a little bit of doing for those of you who are on VDI. It's different than if you are in your own computers. So if you are on your own computers, go and so let me cancel, go to file, save, and on your own computers, go save it wherever. Probably in your downloads folder is where you have the class files. I don't know. I'm assuming that you downloaded them. But those of you who are on VDI, we need to go to a very specific place. If you leave it in the downloads folder or in the desktop of this school computer, they will disappear. The only place you can save stuff to have them again next week is in your Google Drive. Click on your Google Drive. And this time you can't go to shared drives because shared drives is the one that I made and I created, and you can't save into it. You will have to go save it into My Drive. My Drive is your own drive. So double click on My Drive. And here what you're going to do is you're going to create a new folder with all of your class files. So create a new folder right there and call this one Illustrator Class Files. And since I'm going to call it Summer 1, 2002, because I need to distinguish it from other ones that I've taught. And I'm going to say, double click to put stuff into that one. So once I created it, hit the return, and now I double click it. And so now in My Drive into Illustrator Class Files, I'm going to put this one, which is, we're going to call this one, I don't know, intro review, let's say, reviewing all the basic tools. You can call it whatever you want to call it. And say save. Illustrator 20, say okay to that. And there we go, intro review. So for people who are on Google Drive, you save things onto My Drive. Those of you on your own computer, put them wherever you choose, but we're going to have to know where that is, because then if we need to continue with a file, not this time, but sometimes we'll continue with a file from the week before, you need to know where you're putting it. Okay. All right. So anyone need help with saving the files? No. All right. So we're going to take 15 minutes. So it's 3:32, which means by the time I'm done writing this, it'll be 3:33 plus 15. That's 58. Is that right? No, I'm totally wrong. That's 20 minutes. 3:32, 3:42. 3:47. 3:47.
No, 3:57.
57?
No, 47. You're right, 47. Yeah. Just 15 minutes. Yeah. I have a quick question.
3:47 p.m. Yeah.
So when I'm just on my own Mac and I have the program already. Would I put it in the same folder that I downloaded today, or should I make a separate folder?
You can put it in the same folder, and just
Okay.
as you, because it's all your class files, or you can make another one with just your work, your choice. But yeah,
Okay.
as long as you change the name.
Yeah,
put
change
it
the
in
name.
same
Maybe I
folder.
put my
In this
first name.
case, we started from scratch, so there's nothing to change the name. But if we open something that's from there, you might want to change the name so that you have the original starting and your version.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So let's take a break until 3:47. See you guys in 15 minutes.
And you want us to save this then?
Yeah, save it. Save
Okay.
it. I'm going to go ahead and mute everyone so you can all take a break without, make all the noise you want, and I'll unmute when we get back. See you guys soon. All right. Here we go. All right. Hi there. And Liz, looks like you joined us during break. I hope you noticed what was happening, that we were on break. So let's see. All right. Hi, everyone. Come on back. All right. So I'll give you give me a yes if you're here. I need to, since I don't see you, I need to have some sign of life before I jump into the new stuff. Give me a good old yes, if or a thumbs up or something at this point to know that you're here. All right. Cool. Someone joined us during break, but they must have wondered what was happening because I wasn't letting them in. So I don't know if they're there anymore, Liz. Okay. Hopefully she'll come back. All right. Let me share my screen. Here we go. Okay. We had I wonder if I can text. I can not text or email her. All right. I'm just concerned about the person who's trying to connect that didn't get connected, but it'll be fine. All right. So
Diana,
yes.
Command Z steps you back one. Is that still the case?
Can you say that again?
Or to step back, is it Command Z?
Step back command or Control Z. Yeah.
Okay. And then what if you want to keep
Undo.
stepping back? Is it just Command Z over and over again, or Z Z Z? Or
If you want to, you got disconnected when you were asking the question. How much?
so you do Command Z, and then how do you keep going backwards?
Yeah, keep going. Command. Just basically hold down to the controller of the command, and then tap Z Z Z Z.
Okay.
And each time you tap, it's one more backwards. Undo. You get
Forward again. And what if you want to go forward again?
So over here where it says undo, so undo is Control Z. Forward or redo is Shift Control Z up there.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay, so guys, I'm saying Control in mine because I'm on a PC. If you're on a Mac, it would say Command Z. Okay, but then on the Mac also it shows the Shift Control Z. It shows it as a little icon that shows the shift, which is like a little step or something, and then the command, which is like a little flower, and the Z. So it might be a little bit harder to understand. But if you guys go to your to the edit, which you'll find at the top of your screen, go to undo or redo, you should see the shortcuts for the undo and the redo. And as I said, and that's the one thing that PC is a bit easier because it basically says Shift Control Z, whereas on the Mac it shows you the icon for Shift, the icon for Command, and the Z. And if you don't know what they mean, it might be like, huh, what are these symbols? So that's what it is, right? Okay. So many of you have said you're back, so I'm going to continue. And move this out of the way. Actually, let me really quickly, I'm going to write to Liz only because we were on break. Please come back, just so that she knows that we're here in case she thinks it's like last week where I couldn't connect. All right, so hopefully she'll see that email. All right. So we just explored everything that we can do to a shape with the curvature tool and with the direct selection tool, how we can modify it. Let's spend, before we go to the pen tool, let's spend a little minute on this original shape that we had made. So I'm going to make it bigger again. Okay. And given that this tool, this shape was not made with a curvature tool or with anything like that, what would happen, because that's how this whole conversation first started, if I tried to add points to this one. So remember that we said that with the bounding box, we can distort it, or with the direct selection tool, we can change its shape by giving it an extra little click and doing this kind of stuff. But we can't, with this tool, add points to it, right? So if I'm in my direct selection, sorry, in my selection tool, I can't add points to it, period. That's it. I'm just in a basket holding it. It's a container. But in my direct selection tool, where I have access to these guys, I can't add a point either, unless I use either one of the pen tools. So since we just did the curvature tool, make sure you have this shape selected first with the direct selection tool. So you're already into this mode of editing. And now go to your curvature tool, a shape that you have not created with the curvature tool, but it's a shape nonetheless. And now put your mouse over the paths and go ahead and click right there. And yep, you have added a tool and a point. And now you can set and move it around as you did before. Okay. Or, and I'm at undo, Command Control Z, you could also double click. And then what you put in there is a straight line tool, straight angle point. Does that make sense? So what we learned up there applies over here as well. Okay, so now I can also take this little point and say, I didn't really want it. And how do I get rid of it? If I don't want the point,
Delete it. Click
hit
on
the,
it.
yeah,
Select and delete.
hit the delete key. Okay, so I add it. If I click single time, I'm adding a curved shape. If I double click, I'm adding a sharper shape. And if I don't want it, I just delete it by hitting the delete key. All right. So that's how this second conversation turned into this shape. You can use the same set of tools as long as it's in the direct selection tool. Now, if it's in the selection tool, where I'm in that basket mode, right? So everyone select the selection tool now, okay? So that it's in the bounding box mode. Now go your curvature tool, and guess what? It still works. By going straight from the bounding box into your curvature tool, you're basically at the place where it's asking you, do you want to add things? So double click and you can add and make it into a curve or not. Okay. Okay, Liz joined us, so hold on. Let me write to her. Okay. Okay, so I was just writing to Liz who joined us. And there you go. Okay. All right. So did that, okay, is that pretty clear? When you want to add shapes and you just go to the straight curvature tool, it goes into basically direct selection mode where it allows you to add or delete a point. Okay. And now I'm going to just delete it. All right. So now let's go ahead and make this shape smaller again. So I'm going to go back to the selection tool and hold down the shift key and grab the corner. Grab the corner with the shift key selected so that I'm having an issue right now with this mouse that it's not really long story. I've got a mouse that's a bit malfunctioning and I should just, I'm going to switch to my Wacom pen. All right, so let's move it out of the way. So now let's go to the pen tool. The pen tool, if you already know how to use it, that's great. If you don't know how to use it, then you might want to just, I don't know, you might just want to watch. I don't have a good reason for you to need to lose the pen tool right now. Well, no, don't just watch. What am I saying? Go ahead and do this. Learn to use both. but as I said, the main thing that the pen tool is good for is for tracing onto things where you really want to control your movements of it. And what I'm going to do, since this class is more advanced, I'm going to have some shapes that we can trace and that we can create both with the curvature tool and the pen tool. And then you can decide in the future what you want. This time, now it's just going to be a simple demo of how it works. Okay, so go ahead and select the pen tool, which is the good old P for pen tool. All right, so I have the same, let me go over here and do a different color. Let me make these shapes be green. No, actually no fill again, I'm sorry. The reason I put no fill, on these shapes, let me just go back to the curvature tool, and since you already know that, look what would happen if I try to create a shape when I have the fill created, like the shape. When you're creating it, it begins to kind of fill in, and it gets a bit confusing, especially if you're trying to trace something because the shape isn't completed yet and it's a bit of a mess. See what I mean? That's why it's better with these tools to first create your outline with a stroke and later decide, okay, now I want to fill that crown. So you can then select a crown and give it a fill. Does that make sense? It's just better, that's all. It's not that you can't have a fill, but when you're creating it, sometimes you're tracing something and then your fill hides it. So on the pen and the curvature tool both, what I do is when I'm creating them, I start with no fill, okay? And then I'm gonna go this time to a green stroke. There you go, so that we can tell the difference. So now I have a green stroke set also at 4 points, and the pen tool, no fill. Now the pen tool is the opposite way. To start with, you just single click, single click, single click, single click, single click, single click. It seems really easy to use for straight lines, and it is. Single click, no weird double clicking, and there you've got your shape. Yeah, can everyone make a shape full of lots of little squares? So to say, square angles, straight angles, not really square angles, straight angles. All right. So for square angles, that's really simple. Back to this shape, if I want to add more points, I can just, same as before, go to the line and click, and there it is. We've added a point. And then if I click on it again to move it, what I've ended up doing is I've gotten rid of it. So this is where it changes. Okay, so this is where it's different. I added a point by clicking on it. And if I want to go grab it to move it, like we could with the curvature tool, you can't. When you select a point and put it in there, and you select a point and put it in there, you're adding. But if I now want to get rid of one of those points with this tool, I select it and see how it turns into a minus. So I now delete, delete, delete. But I have not been able to select it and then move it to put it into position. You add it, you add it, you add it. But in order to select it, to move it into position, you actually have to hold down on the control key for PC and Mac key for the command key for the Mac. Then you can grab it and move it. Okay. So you actually need to press on the control or command key to grab those points and move them. So it's not much more complicated, but it's not direct. Like with the curvature tool, you just grab the tool and move it. Here, I am holding this entire time, whoops, I am holding down the command or control key in order to move these points. So I have the pen tool, which if I click on an existing icon, anchor, deleted it. I click, it deletes it. See the little minus that appears? Boom, deletes it. Okay, I'm going to put it over here. Boom, deletes it. And thus anything. So if I put it in there again, and now I want to make that point again, I have to hold the controller command key to pull it out to make that point. Click on first, hold the controller command key to pull it out. Whoops, there I made a curve key. I didn't mean to do that. Okay, so that's the first big difference. the next thing that's different is going to be if I'm trying to create some curved lines, and then I'm going to show you the hybrid. So I'm going to move this out a little bit. Now with the pen tool, let's try to create curved lines. This is the part that gets confusing. So just look at me first. How do you make a curved anchor point with the pen tool? Is you don't simply click. A single click gives us these straight lines. It's a click and drag. So I'm going to go click and drag. And so I drag out these handles. Then I have like this little line following me, and I'm going to click and drag again. And now I'm beginning to create that curve. Click and drag down, click and drag. So it's click and drag to create those curves. Okay, click and drag, click and drag. So again, if you're accustomed to it, it's fine, life is good, but it takes a couple of extra things to create a good set of curves. And now, there we go, clicked and dragged and closed it. So you can create the curves too, but it's click and drag, click and drag, click and drag, click and drag. All right, was able, okay, make sure that you've all made a little circle of some kind. You all happy with the click and drag? Were you able to do it? Now, if I want to, once again, go and modify one of these, it's the same as before. The moment I click on it, it disappears, okay? So instead, I need to, same as before, hold down the command or control tree, hold down the command or control tree. Sorry. Command or control key. I look down and I'm pressing the wrong, I'm on a Mac, but using Windows. And so I'm automatically holding the command. I have to look down to get the control key. There we go. And then I can move them around. So this makes no difference if it's round or circular. You just need to hold down the control key to get them to move. Okay. Once you've got that handled though, and this is where it's different, that once you've activated those pieces, you do have handles. Oops, versus with the curvature tool, you did not have the handles, right? So here what you're doing is you click on one of these guys, and what you get is the handles. So you can actually immediately begin to, and you have to make sure you can actually begin to modify the curves just by using that control key. So there's good and bad to both. Right now, all that matters is use the one that you're the most comfortable with. And if you're going to learn one, I probably would recommend start learning the curvature first. And if you ever find that it doesn't have some of the things that you want, the pen tool does have a couple of extra features that could come in handy. All right, so how do you turn, and here's the question, how do you, now you've seen I've had curvy lines or square lines. How do you get a hybrid? This is more complicated. So say that I want to, whoops, I clicked on it and got rid of it. Say that I want to turn this into a hybrid point, okay? So this is where my shortcuts kill me, because the shortcut on the PC, I need to learn the shortcuts on the PC for the pen tool because I don't. Okay, so when I click on an anchor like this, I can hold down the control key, grab this handle and just pull it in until it goes into the point, right? And then I've turned it into hybrid. So this point is still curvy and this one does not have a handle. So basically I make that handle disappear. Bear in mind, I'm still holding the entire time the control key or the command key for this to happen. Okay, so I'm going to keep pulling all those handles in, keep pulling those handles in, and I'm basically turning them all into straight lines. But it's not as simple. Okay. Now, there's a shortcut on the piece on the Mac that I cannot seem to find. Shift C. Maybe that's the one. It's just that I don't remember. So shift control. I'm trying to do that shift control and all I'm getting is I'm getting confused with my because I'm doing the function. Again, I know by heart all of them. I'm pressing shift control. And I don't think that being on a Mac, I can activate the shift control because when I try to do that, I'm getting this, which is not what I need. It's activating a weird VDI thing instead of letting me use the shortcut on it. All I can do is use the, there we go. I can, okay. If I click on the shift afterwards, no. Yeah, it's not going to work on VDI people. So for those of you who are on a real Windows, you can use shift control to now operate those handles. But when you're on VDI, that little menu comes up, which is a VDI thing, and it's not letting me operate them. So anyway, the way I like to do it basically is leave the pen tool, go back to the direct selection tool, and then I like handling these much better this way, where I can do the exact same thing. I can pull in this handle until it kind of gets absorbed, pull it in until it gets absorbed, and then by then I don't have any more. So these are all straight lines, but that's because I'm pulling the handles in all the way. And once you pull them all the way in, then they turn into straight lines. Okay. But it seems easier to me to do that with a pen tool, to just do that with the direct selection tool instead of doing the shift controller command. So there you go. Now, why did I say that one is maybe a bit better than the other? The only reason I said that this shape might be better than the other, the pen tool might be better than the curvature tool, is because you control where every one of those curves go. And you do that if you have to trace something. So I have some examples of tracing. We're not gonna, we shouldn't probably work on that today. We might, let me just see, because I wasn't planning to do much pen tool thing, but since you guys are moved ahead, maybe I can do a little bit of pen tool today. Before we go there, I wanna show you a couple more things that I know I need to show you for sure before class is over. And then I'll show you the possible way to trace. But now you know the big difference of how to create these two. Basically, curves, you have to click and drag, click and drag, click and drag, click and drag, click, drag, click and drag. And if you now want to shift that, right? So now you don't want another curve and you want this next one. This is the problem with my shortcut. I don't know my PC shortcuts as well, guys. Sorry. I'm a Mac person. I'm demoing this on the Mac. So when you create a shape and you don't want to close it, so this is both with the PC or the curvature tool. I want to create this shape and that's it. I don't want to close this shape like the others have been going around and closing it. See what I mean? But say that's where I want to leave it. I have like this little thing that hangs on. So the way to drop it right there and let go is hit the escape key. Okay, so now I'll do that with the curvature tool too. Oh, escape. I'll select, start again, a new one. I'll create now something with this shape. And if I want to leave it right there, because I don't want to continue, again, escape. Okay, so now go ahead and do that. Create these two shapes that are open like these two. And it's the same for both. Tool, pen tool or curvature tool. In the middle of creating it, it will keep going unless you hit the escape key. All right. Are we all there? Any? Okay, so now I'm going to show you a couple more basic things. And then I'm going to show you how to create some screenshots and post these things onto Padlet, and I'll explain why. And then we'll continue with this as much time as we have till the end of class. I will continue showing you some cool things, but let me make these a bit smaller. Yeah, a lot smaller. The ones that I made with this tool. And I wanted to go back to this one because now what if I want to use the pen tool to add tools, to add icons, anchors to this shape, right? So if I go to the pen tool, then again, it's just a shape. As long as I have the pen tool and I touch the edge, just like before, I can create a tool, a shape, but notice that I can't move it. Same as before. I have to click on it and then hold down the control key to grab it and drag it. Okay, so just be aware which tool you have. Versus if you're on the curvature tool and you create that point, you can just move it directly, but it'll by default be a shape that, unless you double click, will give you a curve, versus on the pen tool, by default, when you click, it'll give you a straight line, right? So that's the easiest way to define them. The pen tool is easier for straight lines. The curvature tool is easier for curvy lines. Both of them work on an existing shape. So now I'm going to move this back there. All right. Now that I've filled the area with all these shapes, I want to show you as a review one last thing, which is all of these. If I try to select a filled shape, a closed shape, if I try to fill it with something, it fills just fine. So now I'm going to put a blue in there. I can decide that I want to take the stroke off or not. You know, that's a choice you can make. So now you have that shape without a stroke, with a stroke, et cetera, et cetera. But what happens when you have an open shape like this, right? Because here's an open shape. So it works as a stroked kind of thing. But what happens if you try to fill it? Well, will it fill? Yes, it will. And this is what it's going to do. It's going to find the nearest way to connect the two endpoints and fill up to that point. But you won't be able to control. So what if you wanted that to have a curve or a shape or to go inwards? Then you have to complete your shape. Does that make sense? You can't choose. It'll just go from end to end. So if you left any kind of, you know, shape doing something weird, so here I'm trying to do like an S kind of thing. Now I'm going to hit the escape. This is the shape. This is the, let me move this up. This is the shape that I just created while I had a fill on, and see how basically the fill just kind of does this thing where it just goes from one end to the other end. Who cares what's in the middle? It won't like skip that, or it'll just go with it. Okay. If I modify that by grabbing these points and moving them out, then that's basically what I've got. And if I keep going, then that's what I've got. I'm going to hit escape again. So you don't have any control of where you want it to go or not go. So we just don't fill open shapes. You use them for another reason, to create something that later you will connect. What if I wanted to create this shape and then another here and then connect them? That's fine. But it rarely will be something that I'm going to fill because I just don't have control over the fill. All right, so I'm going to, I guess I can leave that there as a sample. All right, so hopefully you've all been doing these things the moment I've been showing them to you. One more thing. If you want to select one at a time, the other one deselects. So just if you want to select more than one, you can either hold down the shift key and click on something else and see how the bounding box expands to include the two shapes. So even though it has that shape inside of the bounding box, that one is not included. If I were to grab one of this and move, it's only moving the two that I clicked, even though my bounding box seems to include that piece. Does that make sense? because I only clicked on this one, plus by holding the shift key, this one. And now that is all that's gonna be moved. Now notice that if I select this shape, I can move it from anywhere. But if I select this shape, if I try to now move it from the middle, I can't. Why is that?
It has no fill.
It has no fill, all right? So if I were to put this one and move it around, I have to grab it from the stroke because it's the only thing that's grabbable. The center, it's like you can't grab a tire from its hole, right? Now, when I put it on top of something, it is truly transparent, okay? Versus this one is full. So there's nothing in it. I'll pull it over here. It goes completely transparent. As opposed, let's grab one of our shapes that we created. Let's fill it with white. So now instead of none, I'm selecting this shape, I'm filling it with white. It looks identical right now, but whereas this one is truly empty, this one does move from the middle. Why? Because it's filled with white. And when I put it on top of something, it is filled with white. It does cover up. Okay, so remember the difference between filled with none and filled with white. And then the last reminder I want about this white versus none is that this white that we're seeing here is not truly there. It's just for our convenience. But in reality, let's all go to view, go to hide, show transparency grid. And this is truly what we're designing. That white is there so that we can design, because it's really hard to design on this really cumbersome colored background. But in reality, this would be easier if you're trying to use a lot of white, right? Because it's clear what's white and what's not white, what's empty. But if you're not really using a lot of white in your art, then you're better off having that white background, because otherwise it becomes kind of hard to really see the shape when you've got this kind of thing going on. Does that make sense? So if you want to really be clear on what's going on, you might want to hide to show the transparency grid. But for the most part, we try to see, to hide the transparency grid, which means there's this fake white behind us. But then we have to be aware of what has a fill and what doesn't. And the easiest way is always try to grab it from the middle. If you can't grab it from the middle, it's none. If you grab it from the middle and you can move it, that's white. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and fill this again with none right now.
Where did you get the transparency again?
How to see it. So go to view, show transparency grid. All right, show transparency grid. Which gives us an accurate description of what's happening. Oh, another thing about this transparency grid, it's accurate. Let me show you. I just did a Command Z. So these black line that's out there, that's the ends of my artboard. And if I were to print this page right now, all of this would print on top of my white piece of paper. So it would look like this, right? But what if instead of the printer, I put through a piece of red paper? Then that would print on red paper. This would be filled with red, so to say. Does that make sense? And the other thing that will happen is that if I have any of these shapes standing out like that outside of my artboard, then the only thing that's going to print is this little bit of it. That will not print. This piece of it, and that will not print. So the artboard defines what's going to be printed. It needs to be inside of the artboard. You can have shapes hanging out here while you're working with stuff, but know that those shapes are not going to officially be considered part of the document until they are inside of an artboard. All right. Okay. When you want to select more than one shape, as I just said, you have to hold the shift and select the next shape. Remember, for one that's empty, you can't select from the middle. You have to select from the stroke. Select the other one, and then select another one, And then this bounding box right now is only carrying these 3, even though those are under it. It's only carrying the 3. So now I can go to this fill and move it around, which is easier than trying to go and find this little edge to move it around, because if I miss it and click on the side, I've just lost my bounding box. Because when you select something and then click away, it deselects, select, deselect. So ideally, if you select this and then try to click right next to it, you have deselected it. Okay, because in the end, you're just touching the bottom. All right. And then the last thing, that if I want to select 2 or 3 things at a time that are very all over the place, the shift is good. You go click over there, you click over there, that's good. But if you just want to grab everything at once, it's easier to click and drag, and grab these 3 shapes. So if you click and drag and you cast this little net, if you cast in any little bit of this piece that you touch is enough to make it be selected. So look at the difference though. This is filled with stuff and it has an edge. This is filled with stuff, but it does not have an edge. Let me get a bit closer to show you what I mean. It does not have a, remember this was an open shape that I filled. So if I go ahead and select even a little bit of this, it all works. If I click and drag to select these 3 things, I don't need to select all the blue. I can just select a bit of blue and it got selected. A lot of people sometimes feel like they need to do this to select it. Not really. You can just select that little bit, boom, and the whole piece got selected. Does that make sense? A little bit is enough. So if I were to do this right now, if I were to do this, this and that, how many pieces am I selecting?
You're gonna get them both, but even though you got the tips of them.
3.
Yeah, I'm gonna get all 3 of the 2 orange pieces and the blue one. When I let go, they're all selected. But watch this. If I do like this and try to grab this bit, the piece is not being selected. Any idea why? I mean, I just showed you that.
It
And
doesn't
Are you
it's,
have
not
an
holding the
edge.
shift key?
It doesn't have an
There's
edge.
no edge, yeah.
it
Oh, no
doesn't
edge,
have an
yeah.
edge. Remember, this is the open shape that I filled and that I said, isn't really a valid way to use it. So yeah, this is probably not only not done, but even Illustrator can't really recognize it as part of the shape. And when you try to mix it with other things, it messes it up. So just try to avoid that. Try to avoid that because you can't even select it from there until you touch the stroke. Then it's selected because the stroke truly is there. That is just like, not really there. So if I try to select these 2 things by doing this, it's not going to work. I'm only selecting one thing. Okay. I have to grab the stroke. Then I've selected both. All right. And I'm just saying because since I showed you that it might be confusing. All right. Cool. So now I'm going to actually ask us, let me see, what's the time? We're fine. I'm going to show you a couple more things that are review, but for that, I want to create a new artboard. So how do you create a new artboard? Over here on the properties panel, the good old properties panel, make sure that you're in the, all this we're doing in the regular selection tool, the V tool. Let's head over to the, where it says artboards over here. We want to add artboards. If I click over here and try to move this arrow, nothing much is happening, but I could select that. And I could just say, I want 2 artboards and hit return, right? Normally you'd think you could do that, but it's not working because this is just about active artboards. And how many active artboards I have? 1. So you don't create any kind of artboard in here. This is the only thing I would fault this piece for. I think there should be a plus sign where you can easily create artboards from here. But no, we actually have to first hit edit artboards. Click edit artboards. And now that you've got the edit artboards, then you can head over here and click this plus sign and add an artboard. So for those of you who in the past, I've had artboards as layers and stuff, this is slightly more cumbersome. It's just a bit different. I prefer the other way, but this is how the essentials is showing us to create an artboard. That's fine. I added a little plus sign, a new artboard showed up. At this point, it's going to be identical to the size of the original one. but remember, they don't need to be identical. I could decide to make it smaller. So I can, while it's selected like this, I could go ahead and decide that I want to make it a square artboard, right? So my second artboard is, and I'm holding down the space bar to scooch over. My first one is letter size. My second one is square-ish because I'm not measuring it right. I could measure it here and make it be exactly the same. But it kind of 806. I could also put the numbers in here and make it be exactly the same. Make them both be 8.5. And so then it's an exact, square. But while I'm in edit artboards, I can do everything I want to it. There's more options, and I'm not going to go in there, but remember how I just told you this is showing up as white. You could change the default background of your background to another color. If you want to imitate that you have red paper, what's your shape going to look like? You want to imitate the artboard having a different color. That said, that's not going to print. The artboard does not print. So even if you imitate that this is color red, when you print it, it won't print. Does that make sense? So, but it could help sometimes when you're designing something to see what the real background that it's going to be is on. All right, so when we're dead ending a new artboard, we hit the exit right there. And now we've got our second artboard. All right, I'm clearing your feedback. Remember to stop me with a hand, a raised hand if you need help. And now to move from one artboard to the other. If you do Control Plus and you're, need to see all your artboards, remember Control 0 fills your screen and Control 1 reduces it to 100%. So then you can move with your space bar held down, you grab your hand and you move from one to the other. That's fine. Cool. Thank you,
What
Sam.
about if you want to get rid of one?
What's that?
If you've made like 3 and you just want to get rid of one?
Oh, so go back to edit artboards, select the one that you don't want and hit the little trash can, delete artboard.
Okay.
But I don't want to delete this one, so I'm not going to. But if you have a third one that you made by mistake, say I make a third one, there you go. And I don't want it. I select it and I hit the little trash can, boom. So I'm back to only 2 and then exit. Okay. All right, so this is the last thing I'm going to show you. Sam, I know you need to leave, and in fact that you might have already left. I need you to remember to post this work on your Padlet. So that's what I'm going to show people. I need you to do a screenshot of the work you did today and post it on Padlet. And I'm going to show you how to do that now in case you have a question, and if with screenshots, and if not, watch the last.
I'll figure it out. Thank you.
All right, bye. Okay, so I'm going to show you one more thing, and then I'm going to have us do that last bit that I was just telling her. So here's what I want to show you. I want to remind you about levels and layers. So I want us to go and create, let's go for some simple shapes this time. Let's go for a rectangle shape that I'm going to fill with pink. So I'm going to make a rectangle. Actually, I'm going to make more of a rectangle-y looking shape. I'm going to make another rectangle and I'm going to fill it with blue. And I'm going to make another rectangle because I'm still in rectangle making shape. And I'm going to make another one and I'm overlapping them, and I fill this one with yellow. 3 very contrasty colors. Okay. So whoops. Now I made another one when I was trying to move it. Why? Because I forgot to move back to the V. So go back to V, and now I have 3 shapes that are very different in color. And they're overlapping. In fact, I'm going to make this one a bit smaller. Here we go. So everyone did that? 3 shapes. I don't care what shape you use. You can use complicated shapes, easy shapes, middle shapes. Just make 3 shapes. I went for simple. I just want 3 contrasting colors. Okay. So what I wanted to show you right now is, yes, Christian?
Hi, I lost my screen and I cannot find it on left, scrolling left or right or up or down.
All right, so
Was it-
hold on. hold on, Control or Command, and then
Uh-huh.
hit the 0.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so the
Mhm.
other, I got lost
Let me show
when,
what happened. Hold on. If
Yeah.
you maybe scrolled out like this and scrolled out like this and somehow by mistake ended up in a place where you don't see anything.
Yeah.
The way to center your work back into your screen always is to fill your screen with your work is Control or Command 0, and it all kind of pops in again. Because who
Okay.
knows where in the world in the paste board, that area, that gray area that you're in is called the paste board. So you could have been there, there, there. So all of this. So the easiest way is to just hit that. Okay. I just want to show everyone when it's something that's a teachable moment. Yes. What's the other question, Christian?
Well, I lost you when I was trying to add another artboard because I was, so when I went into the edit artboards, I was following you all the way up until when you actually added the artboard
Okay.
after I
So hit
clicked
edit
on,
artboards and then
yes,
click on that
exactly.
plus sign. Right there.
Oh, that plus sign, because that's being covered right now. I have to work on another.
Oh, because you have
everything-
Zoom. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next to the name of the artboard, there's a little plus sign.
Okay, got it. Great.
Got it.
Thank
and
you
then
so
when you're
much.
done, hit exit. You're welcome.
Okay.
Yeah, the zoom on the right side sometimes hides some of the further tools.
Yes.
All
Okay.
right. Cool. So now we have our three shapes with different colors. And notice that the first one I made is below, the second one is in the middle, the last one I made is on top. And even if I were to want to move one below the other right now, they just respect an order of appearance, right? Seniority matters. Stay in the bottom. In this case, it's the opposite, but anyway, you're always going to be in that order. So in order to change this, well, you could do arrange, and I really don't believe in arrange too much. I think that you're taking this class, you want to know how to do things well. Let's head over to the layers tab. That's a really important tab. So let's go to the layers tab. Now, everything we've done, every single thing we've done over here, over here, over here, it's on the same layer. Just because it's on a different artboard does not mean it's a different layer. So for Photoshop people, this is very different, okay? In Photoshop, every new thing we made was in a different layer. This in Illustrator is in layers, is an all-in-one layer, I'm sorry. And if you want to see the order in which they appear on the layers, you can click on this little arrow here and open it up. And now you have all of the pieces you've made, basically from bottommost one is the first one we made, and so on and so forth until the very last one we made. Can you kind of recognize them? I started with that first weird shape, then I went to the blue one, then I did these two, then I did these, and now I made these last three. So top to bottom, this is the last one I made, this is the first one I made. So that's how they appear by default. Now, I'm going to scroll down a little bit. Is your hand up for a different question, or is it the same hand as before, Christian?
Sorry,
Is that-
same hand as before. You can, I
Okay,
can.
got it.
Yeah.
That's fine. Now I had forgotten to lower it and I looked over and I saw it. So I just wanted, when I talk to you guys and do stuff, I look at the camera, but when I'm in this screen doing the work, you guys only see the side of me because I'm having to use a different monitor for the demo. So here we have this triangle, which is on the top of everything. If I were to put it anywhere, it'll be in the top of everything, right? On the other hand, this guy that I did at the beginning, no matter what I do to it, it'll be underneath everything. It'll be under everything because it's the bottommost one, right? And now in this case, it's pretty easy to distinguish which one of these shapes they are. They have very distinct colors and we all remember kind of the order in which we made them. But it's very possible that in the future that you might have thousands of little things in here and they all look the same when they're that tiny and you wouldn't know which one is which. So notice that when I select something, I'll select this one. And over here, a little blue box turns on right next to that shape. If I select this one, see how that little blue box turns on? If I select this one, that one turns on. So this is showing me which object I have selected. Now, what if, but the other, what I really want to do is that I want to select something that I don't see. So say that this one down there is hidden because this one is so big that it's hiding it. So let's make one of these shapes so big that it's hiding the others. I know I made them Where did I leave them? Maybe I made them a week ago, 2 weeks ago. I came back to this document. I mean, I know there were 3 shapes in here. Where did I leave them? Or sometimes it's you just made them, but you still can't like remember that you made this one bigger, but they're still there. So guess what? If I were to come over here and select this circle right there, click on that circle, ha, there it is. It was hiding under that. You see how the bounding box turns on and shows itself to me? That said, if I go and click here in the middle to grab it, I'm going to grab the orange one, right? Because that's the fill. So if I select this blue one and I want to grab it, I need to go grab its bounding box and drag it out. So if I select this purplish or burgundy one, then I can go select the bounding box and drag it out. And then I can see it. Does that make sense, you guys? So this is really useful for when you are, things are hidden. But remember that the fill is still going to win. So you can't grab it from the middle. You need to grab it from its bounding box to see it. All right. Now I'm going to make this one a bit smaller again so that now all my pieces are still here. And I'm going to get a little bit closer. So the next thing I'm going to show you, unless you have any questions, I keep going. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to change the order of these stacks, which is, yes, going to be handled the same way as in Photoshop. For those of you who know Photoshop, I'm going to grab this orange one and I'm going to drag it down and put it under the blue one. So now, no matter when I made it, I have changed the stacking order. So now the blue one's on top. I'm going to grab the yellow one again, or orange one, and now move it beneath the burgundy one. So now it's forever going to be under the burgundy one. Now I can also grab it from here and move it all the way to the bottom. And when I do that, some people go, well, how come it's not under this other shape? So I moved it all the way to the bottom, but it's still where it is. This is where this shape is, right? It's the difference is that now, if I do move it over here, it'll appear under everything, right? Because it's under in order of appearance, not in position. It's not under that one, like under that shape. It's just the bottommost shape as far as stacking order. So this is going to show up under everything now. Whereas when it was my top one, I'm going to move it all the way to the top now. It showed up on top of everything, hiding everything. Does that make sense? It's the topmost or the bottommost one, but not, it doesn't refer to its position in the art or the drawing, just its level, if it's at the top of the pile or at the bottom of the pile. Give me a yes if that works and you got it. Give me a no or raise your hand if you have questions about any of this. Saul, how's it going? I know that you've been dropping in and out from your connection. Are you able to follow through with what we're doing?
Yes,
Yeah.
I've been watching a little bit every once in a while when I get straight line, you know, with the internet.
Yeah.
But now I'm at home, so I'm more steady. I have more steady internet, so I'm gonna be able to do everything the way exactly you do it.
Okay, great. Just wanted to know because I know you were moving in and out as you were moving locations. So, okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Just checking in. All right, guys. Yeah, Vera, I noticed that most of the time you're watching, as long as you know, as you said, in time, sit back and redo it, reviewing. That's fine. My only question about that is that if you have questions when you're on your own, you don't have me to help you out, you know? So you're welcome to that. But also my concern is that if you're just doing that as something that you're more comfortable with, that's fine. But if you're doing that because I left you behind at some point, then that's the moment to ask me to help you catch up. Does that make sense? So that then you can keep up. So if you fall behind one moment, then 2 moments, then you fall behind 3 instructions, then you go, ooh, I don't want to ask her because now I'm so far behind. Then you fall behind 10 instructions, then you're like, oh, I'm just going to watch. Then you're not really getting the opportunity to ask me questions. So I highly recommend trying to follow and asking me questions. All right, I'm fine with that. I'm kind of going fast because I'm saying any questions, no one asking questions. So I'm just kind of reviewing stuff that maybe would have taken me 2 or 3 classes in the past. I'm just kind of going through all of them so that we can move forward to something else. But by next week, everyone make sure that you're comfy with this, because as we move on with something else, I'm going to assume that you're comfy with manipulating all these objects up and down and stuff like that. So if any of this is still a question, please watch the videos, the recordings, and review it and do it on your own. All right.
Diana,
Yes. So yeah.
can you move one of the layers? Can you move one of the layers so I can see, because I don't know how to move the layers. I can move the squares, but I don't know how to move the layers.
Sounds good. By the way, it's fine. I'll answer you now, but Saul had raised his hand and I was saying yes to Saul. So remember to raise your hand if you want to be next, but that's fine. Here, I'll grab this and drag it up and see how that blue line appears wherever I drop that. That's where it shows up.
Thank you.
So that blue line, I grab and drag, and now I'm going to put it right as second point. And there it is, right under the blue one and above the other one. So when you grab and you drag, where that blue line appears, that's where it drops, and let go, and it appears over there. Did that work?
Thank you, Diana.
All right. Okay. You're welcome, Saul.
The question that I have is, how do you create this other window where the squares are, or you just make a line in between the canvas?
Say that again. How do I create this other window?
How do you create this other square or other canvas?
Right, the extra, okay, the extra artboard. Okay. So I went to properties.
Okay.
And up here, edit artboards.
Okay.
Edit artboards. And then I just added with this plus sign, a new artboard. So now I created a third artboard.
Oh, perfect.
And then I hit exit, and now there you go. Now the reason it's square instead of rectangular is because when I created it, this first one, I went ahead and changed its shape. So I can edit this artboard and now change this shape too and make this one be long and then exit, right? So when I'm in edit artboard mode, I can change, when I'm in edit artboard mode, I can treat these as if they were shapes and drag things around and move them around, and and then when I'm exiting, now they're just back, they're just shape, they're just the background of my stuff. Now, this doesn't seem very useful or why this happening right now, but just know for now that this can be done. That doesn't mean that you will do it or want to do it, but it can be done. You can treat your artboards as elements. When you exit, they're just shapes. And it has to do with, say that you're creating for one same company, you're creating their logo over here, then here you make their stationery, here make the business card. And so in one file, you can have different artboard shapes in order to follow the thing that you're designing, right? So
yes,
business card, envelope, letterhead, all in one document.
Yeah, actually in the past, I just did one at a time, one page. I didn't know how to do the
other artboards,
canvas on the side. Oh my God, now it's gonna be so easier.
It's much easier, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
So then this one can be, edit artboard, and maybe this is where you make your business cards. So you make it business card size. You measure here. Then here you make your envelope, and here you make your stationery. You just make them the right size, and then you have the same logo there, the same address here, because the elements are going to be similar, but you're going to move them around so that you can have that, similarity. And then
thank you so much.
But you don't want to be in edit artboard mode to work on your stuff. So I try to select this blue thing, guys. No, I need to exit the artboard and then I can work with my stuff. Okay.
All right. Perfect. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Okay. So let's move to that third artboard. Oh, did I need a third? No, I created the third one just because I was showing you guys, right? How to make a new one. Yeah, so I don't need a third one. So for those of you who created a third one, just to learn, I'm going to go ahead and delete. I have a little fourth one here that I made by mistake. So I'm going to delete the third one, and I'm going to go ahead and this one here, I'm going to select this artboard, and I'm going to delete it because I had made one too many. Artboard 3. Exit. So now I'm back to just 2 artboards. Okay. What else? Oh, looking at the time. Okay, so here's the thing. We saved this file. Okay. Hopefully before break, you all gave it a name. All right, so go ahead and save it again just to make sure that all the, oh, I'm sure, sorry, there was another question from Gustavo that I didn't answer. Yep, Gustavo. Oh, I can't hear you. Oh, you're done. And Joni, your hand is up also?
Yes, so for some reason I have, I have arts board 7, number 7. How do I make it number 3? Because I don't have 7 artboards up.
Yeah, it's just that as you've been creating and deleting, I don't have 7 artboards right now. I have only 2. But if I edit and make a new one, it's going to come out of artboard 8 just because I've been making them and deleting them. So the automatic name shows up differently, but I can just go in here and call it something else. I can call it, I don't know, artboard 8. It can be my letterhead, for example. If I, letterhead, right? So I can just do that and have it be called letterhead, but it's not the point, right? It's just the reason I really have 3 artboards when I exit, but when I create them, it automatically gave the number 8 just because it was it was the 8th one I've created in this session, even though I've deleted all the rest of them. Got it? But when I exit, that name doesn't matter right now anyway. Okay. Let me go and edit and delete this 3rd artboard anyway, because I don't want to exit. And there I go. Okay, so there's some noise in the background. Someone's got some noise, someone talking to them. So if so, keep yourself muted. All right, so let's make sure you saved. So it's Command S or Control S is the shortcut for saving, or go up to File, Save. And now I'm gonna ask you to make a screenshot and post it up into the Padlet. Now, why is that? The Padlet is the, hold on, because I'm copying the thing. Padlet's going to have 2 functions for me. One function, just like at the beginning, I want you guys to introduce yourself, tell me what you're interested in. And I also want you to, as homework during the week, to create something that you're going to, oh, Vera, you're new to Illustrator. Vera, I thought you were in my Illustrator class before. All this time I've been saying, oh, you guys are new. Why didn't you correct me?
No, I'm brand new at this. I don't even want to take a screenshot. It's so embarrassing.
But Vera, I've been saying from the beginning, oh, you guys have been in my class. I'm going faster. Please, next time you should have said, I've seen you in class so often. In my brain, you were in my Illustrator class.
No,
I am
never
so
before.
sorry.
Yeah. That's why I will do it for homework. I will watch your every word.
Oh, no, but I could have helped you much more. I'm so sorry. I basically have done stuff that takes a few days today, okay? So it's
Thank
not
you.
your fault, but I've been saying, oh, looks like everyone here's been in my class before. That would be a good time to correct me on that. Because I basically looked, I mean, I've seen you in so many of my classes. In my brain, I just said, oh, she did Illustrator too. And right now that I came here to read this, I just read I'm brand new to Illustrator and it had not entered my consciousness So I am so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no
I don't want
worries,
you to,
no
I don't
worries.
want you to feel that you can't do this. It's just that I'm moving ahead with people who've already done this. So I apologize. Maybe what I should do is give you the links to the first two classes of last session where I go through a lot of this much slower. Okay. Can you remind me, send me a quick email and I'll get you the links
Yes. yes,
so
that'd
that
be
you can see more of a more gentle approach to
Slow
everything I just did. Because here I just kind of zoom forward going, you guys know what I'm talking about. Review, review, review. I am so sorry. All right. But now it's the end of the class, so I can't undo what I've done. So now let's show you how to do this. Basically, here's the link. I'm going to put the link in the bottom, paste. Promise me you're not going to leave the class because of this. Promise me that I'm not feeling all traumatized. Promise me that you'll stay here. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to come to this class, to this Padlet, and post your classwork. Once again, I don't care if it's good or bad or medium. And in fact, the worse it is, the more aware I become of what I need to review or do slower. So this isn't a place where I'm going to grade you A to F. I just want to see where you're at, because unless you share your screen, I can't walk behind you as I do in class to see what you're doing. So I really want to see those of you who post your advanced projects and those of you who post your I didn't get this projects. I really do. I understand if you're embarrassed about that. Don't this time, especially Vera, because I barely explained. But in general, it really helps me to see with what I taught today was something that everyone was able to capture or not. So see how Maysan just posted a screen capture of what she did today, and she did things that are pretty similar to what I've been doing. Other people might post today's work and also have created a little, I don't know, a little bear out of it, just because that's what they do. As long as you're kind of doing what I'm asking you to do, I don't care what shapes you're creating. So that's fine. Why do I need this? Because this class is part of a certificate. And in order to receive the certificate, you need to get a pass on the class. Now, you might not care about the certificate and you're just doing it to learn. That's fine if you get a pass or no pass, but I'm still going to have to grade you. So if I see your work and I see that you're doing it, that's really a pass. It doesn't need to be that you're doing a beautiful job of it. That's not a pass. A pass is you're attending class, you're doing the work, and you're stumbling on some things, you're getting some other things, but that's still a pass. Does that make sense? It's not a grade. It's just, yes, this person was in class, she's been doing the work, and he or she has gone from 0 to 5, and someone who started at 5 has gone to 10. So of course, 10's work is going to be better than 5's work, but you started at 0. So you know what I'm trying to say? It's not a comparison. It's you got to get better within your own self. All right. Joni, yes?
Yeah, so I'm on a Mac and I can't, so I went to my magnifying glass and I said screen capture. Is that what I
Yeah.
want to do?
No, I'm going to show you now how to do it. No, that's
Oh,
not how
okay.
you do it.
Okay. Thank you.
So here's how you do this. If you are on a Mac or on a PC, it's different. But let me just finish saying that what I want to see in here as well, other than your classwork, I also want to see, I want as homework, I'm going to give you guys homework and I'm writing it down. Make something, and it can be a shape or abstract, like what we've been created is abstract. It's nothing. We didn't make shapes of anything. That shows you practicing what we covered in class today. Okay, so that's the homework. So you can be doing something really advanced or something really basic. I don't care. I just want something that has you practice at least once during the week the work that we're doing. And if you're up to some other projects, please post them here as well so we can share. And if there's something you want to learn to do and you see an example of it, you can post it and say, this is something I'd like to learn to do. And that's your way of telling me, hey, show me this or show me that. Okay. All right, so how do we do the screenshots? On a Mac or on a PC is different. On a Mac, there's going to be two questions. If you're on a Mac on VDI or if you're on a Mac on your own computer. Because if you make a screenshot right now, all of the screenshots that you do are going to end up on your real computer, which is fine. But I just want to warn you, because in Photoshop, this came up and it became a bit confusing. So I want you to understand that the screenshot will end up on your real computer. If you're on a Mac, this will end up on your real computer, not on VDI. Okay, because that's where you need to post it from. So hold on. How do we do a screenshot? On a Mac, hold down the Shift. I'm going to write it down. On a Mac, screenshot, hold down the Shift plus the command plus the number 4. Okay, so I just wrote it in the chat. Hold down the Shift, hold down the command, and then the number 4, and then your mouse will turn into this little how do you call it? Crosshairs. For some reason, I can't come up with the name of it. And then you can click and drag across everything you want to show. And I wouldn't mind if you also showed me your layers, just so you know, practicing your layers. Click and let go. And there you go. That's taken a shot. If you do Shift Command 4 again, then you can do a shot of each one of the different things. You don't need to do this, but I'm just showing you how each one of those is a different screenshot. And they all land on your Mac's desktop. Okay, so that's it. That just landed ready to go on your Mac's desktop. Okay, so let me complete this process for the Mac people. Number reminder, if you're a VDI or a PC person, if you're a Mac person, those landed on your desktop. Now go to the Illustrator. Okay. Thank you, Vera, for posting. Then you're going to go down here to your little plus sign. And you're going to put your name. Okay, so in my case, it's Diana. If it's classwork, you might want to also put the date, just so that later we know, like May 27th, you know, classwork or something like that. As opposed to if you're posting something of your own or homework or something like that. And then here you can click on this plus on the first icon, and it's going to have you open your window. And remember what I said, that these end up on your desktop. So on your desktop, the topmost screenshot is going to be the screenshot that you just made. So you go ahead and say, go to desktop, select that screenshot, or double click on it, or select and say open, and it's going to pop in. Okay, there it is.
Somehow I missed the plus sign.
Okay, I'll show you in a second. You can also write something, or you can add a caption. Add a caption would be something that goes with a photo, like maybe you can say classwork May 27th right there, right? It doesn't matter where you say it. Or I can say, I got lost, I need help with, and then you tell me what you need help with. So this is a good way to communicate with me, right? When you're done, you say publish. And then I'll know what you need. Now, how you got that plus sign, way down here on the bottom right of the page, Joni, there's a circle here with a plus sign, and it's going to be on the bottom right of whatever page you're in, on top of whatever you have. Do you see it now?
Oh, wait. So first I need to click on the class.
You go to the pad. Yeah, up in my link, I put the Padlet. Click on that.
Padlet. Okay, wait. What's
in the chat?
Oh, I see. How to use no, that's how do you. Oh, I click on that first.
Click
to
on
get
that
into
link, and it'll get you to the Padlet. Did you click on it yet?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going back and forth between things.
Yeah, and then
Diana.
Now let me just say that I've given you the link to this Padlet and all the emails I've written to you, so that you can keep posting during the week, okay? Because
Yes.
you won't have this chat anymore, but it's in the different places that I've emailed you. You have a link to this Padlet. Did someone say my name a second?
Yes, I did. You answered the question. I was going to ask if the link is valid after class ends.
Oh, yeah.
I saved
I
it.
mean, after class ends today, for sure. After class ends at the end of the summer, probably still valid, but at some point, I only have free Padlets I can make. So I'm refreshing them. So next session, I'll have to reuse it for the new
With the
students.
old posted items, is there a way to delete them so I can put up a new one, or you just keep them all?
These no, these are going to keep being there. We're going to keep building and adding. And at the end of this class, there will be maybe 50 things here. You don't need to delete your old one. You just post a new one and they keep dropping into the bottom and we only see the new stuff. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So next week you post next week's work, the following week, the following week's work. All right, so let me go back and show people on,
I still have, yeah.
I want to show people on the PC how to do their screenshot. Okay,
I
so
don't
if
know
you're,
I don't know how to keep going though. Do I go to my Padlet information when I'm on, where I just gave you the picture of the woman earlier, and then how do I add a new picture?
okay, so if you're gonna, you can only post one picture each time.
Oh,
So
okay.
you click on the plus sign,
Yes.
you say whatever this is here, and then you click over here on this first icon and you choose your shot or whatever you're going to post, and you say open, or you double click and it comes in. Once it comes in, you publish. If you want to add another one, you have to add another one. Once you hit publish, it goes through. If you add another photo, I'm going to discard, then you push plus again and you add another one.
And how did you add the photo? Oh, you just click on the photo. Okay, I think I know.
Click on the photo.
Okay. Just say my name though. That's all I have to say for this one.
What's that?
You just have to say my name.
Just your name. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I want to make sure that people don't leave before I show the PC people how to do a screenshot. Then I'll keep answering. But I've left half the class without knowing how to do a screenshot. So hold on. Give me 1 second. PC people, how do you do a screenshot? So PC people, you go down to your type here to search, and you write the word snip, and you open up the snipping tool. Click on the word snipping tool up here. It's a bit more complicated on the PC. It takes a few steps. On the Mac, it just saves automatically onto the desktop. On the PC, you need to do the snip and then save it yourself. So this little box opens up. You say new for a new snip. Everything goes gray. And then you click and drag across everything, even if it covers that box. It doesn't matter. You don't need to move the boxes. It disappears. And you make your selection and you let go. And this is the shot, the shot of, the screenshot. So now you need to say file save as, and you need to give it a name and put it somewhere. So maybe you want to put it in your desktop and then get rid of it. You need to put it wherever you're going to find it. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it on my desktop right there. And maybe I'm going to call this one shapes, something like that. And then I'm going to say save. As long as you know where you saved it. I know that I put them on my desktop because now you need to go get it from there to post it in Illustrator. Okay. All right. And then you go the same thing. You go to the Illustrator, and this time when you go and say plus, the only important thing is that when you go look for it, you have to go to your desktop, and there you'll be. Okay. So just how it's the same process to post it is just how to create the snapshot is just the same. It's what's different. Okay. So just so you know, class goes until 5:15. So I'm still here to answer questions and stuff. So if you need to leave, that's fine. But it's not, I know it looks like it ends at 5. So, but actually the class usually goes till 5:15. So, but if you need to leave, that's fine. Just saying, because I'm using this time to do this. Okay, so now hopefully everyone has figured out how to post a screenshot. And if you haven't, then please do now. Please do ask the question now to make sure everyone has posted something that was done today. Now, if you're going to be doing it during the week, because for some reason you missed class, you missed the half, the beginning, the end, then go ahead and take your time during the week to review the bits of video. So how do you review those bits of video? Is anyone new to this class completely? Yeah, Christian hasn't done this yet. Do you know how to get to the class recordings? This is not
Yes.
about Illustrator, Vera, so I know you can't. Kristen, you know how to get to the class recordings?
I do.
Okay, good. So in the Photoshop, you go to the Google pipeline, share drives, Illustrator, you open up, and then here you'll have the class recordings, okay?
Yeah.
So now here I will delete this because there was no class the first day. And this week, by tomorrow morning, I'll do it tonight, but usually it takes a while to process. You'll have a link here, which is today's class. Let me say this once again. What's the best ways to use these recordings is during the class to have a notepad next to you, right? And so as I'm talking, you'll go, oh, this is interesting. And I don't know how to do this. I would like to review this. Look at the time and go, ooh, it's 3 p.m. Okay, so right at 3 p.m., she talked about the direct selection tool. So you make a note, right? So then later you go, okay, if the class starts at 1:30, by 3 p.m., that means that an hour and a half in, she was talking about whatever it is that she was talking about, right? That you want to review. So then you can click on the link. And when you click on that link, you can go. So let me just show you. I'm going to undo what I just did, which is basically, let me undo this. Say that this is the link, right? You click on this thing and you go to the video, YouTube, and then you go, okay, I need to move to an hour and a half in, which is about there. That's about, see how the timeline shows you? That's about an hour and a half in. And then hopefully at this point, I'm talking about something like, okay, like, so then you scroll a little bit back and forth, and that's about the hour and a half in. You'll find me talking about that thing you wanted to do, or you took a note. That's if you don't want to sit through the whole thing, or you took a note that 3 hours in, I was talking about something. I started 1:30, 2:30, 3:30, 4:30. So then you go, okay, 4.5 hours in. This class wasn't that long. This is only a 4-hour class. You go in here and you go, there you go. Now she's talking about this thing. So actually, this is one of the things that you should, Vera, this is one of the ones that you should look at. This is the first day of last week. Towards the end of the class, we were still creating basic shapes. So I want you to look at that, and then I'll help you look at I'll have you look at the one from the second week of last week, where we covered basically all of this and in much less time. So actually, if you go right now to this link and click on it, you already have, that's day one of last day's Illustrator. Otherwise, send me a quick email and I'll go find the links for last week's last session's Illustrator and send them to you. Okay. You can just scooch past the beginning where I tell people how to get onto VDI and all that, and then just get to where we start using Illustrator. All right.
So I have a question then.
Yeah.
So can you get onto the videos two different ways? One is just clicking on your email.
No, to the videos, to the recordings, I will never send the links to them. No.
You
This is
won't.
the
Okay.
only, no, I don't. This is the
Okay.
only way to get to them. Go to the handouts, click on this, and you will see always the link for that day after that day. So it might pop in tonight, but it might not, but it usually isn't completely workable until tomorrow morning. So usually as of Saturday morning, the links are ready to go. Sometimes they're ready to go at night, but they take a lot of time. YouTube processes them. YouTube puts, how do you call them? Not dubs, writes, picks up captions. They take a lot of time to process them before they're available.
Mhm.
And
So
then
so what I do is I go to Google Drive and do shared drives, and then I find it that way. Is that
shared
correct?
drives,
Uh-huh.
then you find your Illustrator shared drive,
Okay.
and then right there, you'll find at the top, you'll find the Zoom class recordings link. So you double click on that and you click on that. Yeah, I won't, the emails that I sent before was just me trying to get you some stuff, but from now on, this is where you find, and here's how to use Padlet and how
Okay,
to use
great.
Padlet
Yeah.
for Illustrator and that kind of stuff.
Okay. And then are you when you make all these videos, then how long do they last?
They stay they stay up. If you save the links, you can always go back to them. If not, it used to be that I kept the links up for a while, but now it's becoming, people were getting confused. So now I only have the links for this active session. So when this class is over, if I don't teach another Illustrator until the fall, they'll still be here. But when I begin to teach a new Illustrator, then I clean up the links and I put in the links for the new class. So, but you can make a copy of this. You can, and keep it for your own purposes, and then you'll always have the links. I don't take the last 2 years of videos are still up on YouTube. So if you have the link, you have the class.
And then
Okay.
the Zoom link, will that be the same every week?
Every week, it'll be the same Zoom link. Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
You're welcome. So yeah, no, great questions. Now, for those of you, it's 5:15, which means officially class is over. But if you're on VDI, please don't leave yet. I want to help you walk this out correctly. If you're at home, you can close this whichever way you want. But if you're on VDI, you need to disconnect from Google Drive. So I'm going to show you right now how to disconnect from Google Drive. And for those of you who are done, I'll see you next week. For those of you who are on VDI, please do the following. I'm going to show you right now. Thank you, Christian. I see the little icons. All right, so first let's close this file, and you can go to the name and click that little X click that little X and close the file, then close the Illustrator. From the top, X right here on the top right. That's closing Illustrator, but now we need to sign out of Google Drive. That's the most important thing. So click on this little icon at the bottom right of your screen on the black taskbar. There's a little upwards arrow. You click on that and you go to this icon, this Google Drive icon. Click on that. And here what we're going to do is we're going to click on the gears and hit preferences. And then gears again, disconnect account. So gears, preferences, gears again, disconnect account. Are you sure you should disconnect? Yes, disconnect. All right, so we disconnect from Google Drive. Then we have to close down this school computer. We go down. This is what we want to see next week when we start again, right? Or this week while you guys practice. Then we go down to this little icon where we opened up Illustrator. We're going to go to that start button. And the first icon up is the power button. We're going to turn off by shutting down this school computer. Okay, so we go power and then shut down. And after this shuts down, you say, okay, thank you for disconnecting me. Now you need to disconnect from VDI, which you do by going up to this top layer, the final little icon on that top layer. You click on that and you say log out. Right there. And once you log out, are you sure you want to log out? Yep, you're done. Now you're ready. Now you can just forget about it. And then next time you want to use Illustrator, you come back in here, you click login, so desktop Illustrator, log into Google Drive and start to work. All right. Gustavo, there's a question. You have a question? No te oigo bien, disculpa, está todo muy... Apenas te oigo como muy
¿Puedes compartir mi pantalla?
Ahora te oigo, no veo tu pantalla. Espera que haga un stop my share. Ok, dale. Dame tu pantalla. Ok. Sí. No te oigo.
¿Ya me oye?
No te oigo, sorry. A ver, escribí en el chat cuál es tu pregunta, porque no te oigo. Te oigo distorsionado, no entiendo. ¿Puedes escribir en el chat la pregunta?
Sí.
No sé si me está preguntando por el... la verdad no sé qué me estás preguntando. I need to fix your canvas. Ok. ¿Tenés esos bien largos? ¿Decís los artboards? Ok, vos estás usando, ok, you are using instead of using the Essentials workspace, Gustavo, he joined us mid-class, andate al workspace, no sé si te acuerdas, a la derecha arriba, donde puedes elegir los workspaces, anda para la derecha, para la derecha, para la derecha, sigue hacia tu derecha, mucho más para la derecha. Ok, ahora subí y a la izquierda ahora no, arriba de vuelta donde estabas. Ok, ahora andate para la izquierda, izquierda y ahí. No, uno más a la izquierda. Ahí, clic ahí. Ahí, andate a Essentials. Muy bien. Ahora estamos en Essentials, ahora estás igual que yo. Antes estabas en el más complicado que usábamos antes. Ahora estoy usando en lugar de Essentials Classes, estoy usando básicamente Essentials. Te digo simplemente porque vos todavía estás en el Essentials Classic. Ok, ahora, hacete un clic para que no te quede nada seleccionado. Hace un simple click en el background. Muy bien, ahora a la derecha vas a ver que dice Edit Artboards. Andate a la derecha, ahí, y abajo, Edit Artboards. Ahí. Ok. Y no sé por qué si lo tenés que arreglar, como que tienes que hacerlo más pequeño o no sé bien qué es lo que querías arreglar. Pues arreglarlo de abajo y achicarlo.
Lo transparente.
Ah, eso es lo que querías,
Sí,
sacarle, ver de vuelta al blanco. Ok, pensé
sí.
que querías agregar. Ok, so andate de vuelta y decirle exit. A la derecha, ahí decía exit. Ok, y ahora andate arriba a view y High Transparency Grid, que está bien hacia abajo. High Transparency Grid, un poco más arriba, 4 para arriba, 2 más, ahí. Perfecto.
Ya nada más el screenshot. Gracias.
Listo. Ok, muy bien. Start participate. Okay, Padlet link. Let me get you the Padlet link again. Copy link to Clipboard. Here you go. There's the
Thank you. So
Padlet
shouldn't I
link.
be able to just copy it and paste it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I did that earlier. It just didn't come out. Okay, thank you.
It's possible. Well, here's the thing about copying. I'm not sure that you can copy so much from the chat. But go to the, no, you can, but let me show you how. Go to the chat where I put the link. Right?
Yes.
And just, if you put your mouse over where I put the link, to the right, just a little bit to the right of it, you'll see 3 little dots that appear. Do you see that? Click on that and say, and then click on copy. Now it's in your computer's copy. So now you can go to your browser and paste it in there. And
Oh, perfect. Okay, thank you. I did it the other way. I highlighted it.
Yeah, that doesn't copy from a highlight. It's weird.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right. Any other question, guys?
Thank you,
Anything
Diana.
else? You're welcome, Vera. I'm sorry. I kept saying, oh, everyone's experienced in this. And I totally didn't like get that you weren't. So
I'm not a big talker, but I came across your keyboard shortcuts. Hot dog. I'm going to study those.
That's awesome. That's great. Let me just here, let me give you here. Let me in the chat, that link that I just put in there, go ahead and click on it. That's the video to the first day of Illustrator from last year, last session.
Okay.
Can you click on it and open that video? And now let me go see if I can find the links. I believe I have them here from last class. Efficiency class files, graphics classes, Illustrator, Illustrator class 5, spring, fall 2022, spring 2022. Let's see if they're there. No, that's class files. Where would I have put the, where did I put the Zoom? Oh, Illustrator spring 2022 here. Okay, so here we go. Here is days 1, 2, and 3. Oh, so day 2 of the spring class link is right there. Can you click on that link? And I'm not sure, you might even need to go as far as day 3 to cover all the stuff that I covered today.
Okay.
Day 3, yeah, I was like, hey, you all guys got this. I don't want to bore you. Let me just move through, right? But I'm not sure. Maybe that goes a little bit further. So just see as much as what seems to cover the stuff I just did. Okay.
Okay.
So there you go. And I'm going to go ahead and email these 3 to you right now as well. Let me set up and Vera. Oh, you already wrote that I would like to catch up. Perfect. So let me reply. Here you go. Spring class recordings, day 1, 2, and 3. So I just sent you an email. Okay. That way you have them. No, I didn't send it yet. I'm sending it as I speak. And let me get you the. And then here is the link to Illustrator Padlet is right there. Just so that you have them both in one. All right, so there. I just sent that email to you.
That's great.
Okay.
Thank
Ooh,
you.
it got written kind of weird. We're day 2. Well, whatever, you understand.
All right.
All
Have have a restful Memorial Day weekend.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right.
All right. De nada, Gustavo. Mucho gusto. Buen fin de semana.
Gracias, adiós.
De nada. Ciao, Patricia. Okay, bye, everyone. Bye,
Bye-bye.
Joni. Bye, Vera. Bye, Saul. Any other questions or you're
All
all
right, thank
fine?
you. No,
Okay.
it was a
All right.
lot, but at least I'd taken it before.
Yeah. No, well, as I said, I went kind of fast. So, you
Yeah.
know, really, if you want to review, I already actually go to the chat and click on the links. Those links that I just put in there for Vera, those are the day 1, 2, and 3 of last session's Illustrator, where I had a bunch of new people and I went really slowly through all of this stuff. So if you want to do
Great.
reviews, you can click on those 3, but those will be gone once I cancel the class. So go click on them now, keep
Okay.
them open, and then you can kind of review from there. Otherwise, just review our class. As long as you remember it, you just need to practice, then that's enough. But if you kind of forgot what the basis was, then that class I went much slower because everyone was new.
Right. That's good. Well, at least I
All
was
right.
familiar with some things. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no, and this time you guys will get to move ahead, and do more
Yeah.
than what you did before. So that's cool. But yeah, I want to make sure that I don't lose you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Bye.